Today's episode is brought to you by LMNT, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With LMNT, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drank 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, LMNT is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packages free with any LMNT order. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend and LMNT will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinklmnt.com/Table Talk. One of the best ways that you can support the podcast and your training is to join the crew. When you join the crew, you get an extra crew cast podcast every single month. You also get access to our Discord, which has a training Q&A with Team Elite FTS members. You get form checks. You can upload any of your training footage and have your lifts diagnosed, sometimes within minutes, by multiple people. Access to close to 30 different ebooks, training logs, and first sign up access to our weekend training retreats, train your ass off, and other events that we do. Biggest takeaways from that, though, what people enjoy the most and get the most out of is the training Q&A and the form checks, as well as the extra podcast. Hey guys, I'm back in the gym with another limited edition apparel drop. This is the new Live, Learn, Pass On shirt. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our cambered grip American cable attachment. This attachment has 4 grips and it's cambered. So when you flip it, it actually becomes 8 grips. And if you turn it upside down, there's actually 16. This is one of our most used cable attachments out in the gym. Even got that full range of motion. We got a second limited edition drop this month as well. Head over to EliteFTS.com, pick up the shirt, pick up the cable attachments, and we'll see you next time.
Matt with EliteFTS here at the Armory in Columbus, Ohio. This is a new build, beautiful facility. Should be opening up around November 1st, 2023. Looking at the posterior chain developer, signature version. It's going to have the logo panels on there. Reverse hypers, you can do glute ham raises, back raise, any kind of posterior chain movement you want to do on this piece. This is really good. The best thing about this, so you just step down on the release, adjust it. So it makes it really easy to adjust these, no pop pins or anything of those sorts. So this is the signature posterior chain developer by EliteFTS.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by EliteFTS.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. We're back with another episode of Table Talk. Today, my guest is Jordan Wong. Jordan has been competing in powerlifting since 2008. He's had the all-time world squat record twice. I believe the first time you broke that, I'm going to try to not look at my notes, was 2014? 2015, close with that. You're the owner of Showcase Strength and Fitness. You've been competing since 2008. Now, in other podcasts, they said, well, Open Powerlifting says 2008.
That's some other Chinese dude in Australia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that doesn't count. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I need to look at the numbers. Like, were they better?
I think it was a single ply guy, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, February 2. So my first meet might not even be on there.
Okay.
My first 2 might not be on there.
Okay. Very cool. So 2009 is when you first started competing, and you're also a father. So right now you're balancing, for lack of a better word, because we'll get into that a little bit later, the gym, your own training, and being a father as well. And you're coming off the American Pro, which we're going to talk about your meet recap with that. You've lifted in pretty much every big meet that there's been since you started in 2009. I can't think, outside of maybe a Pioneer meet, I can't think of any of the other ones that you hadn't participated or compete in.
That is correct.
Outside
No
of like,
hybrid meet, but
yeah,
that's pretty short lived. I guess it's been continued by Alex Uslar with the Ghost.
yeah.
So, yeah. I guess
Well, that's an
counts.
interesting conversation there too. We'll get into later. Is how do you guys? Because I asked this to John Hack originally. How do you guys know where to go? Because it's like you all figure out.
Yeah.
Before the meet actually starts to suck, you figure out what the next one is before it actually falls off.
We talked to Shane about that too.
Yeah. But I think I know how you guys are doing it, but we'll confirm that a little later on. What I want to start with is you tore your pec at the American Pro, and we were talking a little bit off air of when I tore my pec. So a funny story that kind of goes along with that is, after coming back from tearing the pec, there were reoccurring strains I'd have here and there. And I had one about 2 weeks out from one of the meets in York. It was either the Nationals or the Worlds that didn't have anybody from any other country, but you know, it was just one of those. And
world champion.
Yeah. So I didn't bench from the time I strained it until the meet. So in the warm-up room, I only worked up to like 185, 225, because I figured if I'm going to re-tear it, I'm going to do it on the platform. I'm not going to do it in the warm-up room. And I opened with 500 and just smashed it, and then went like it was 225. I mean, it was very easy. My best bench at the time was 585. If I was to project what I could have hit during that day, probably 610. I jumped to 530 on my second and killed that as well. Then on my third, I went to 540 or 545. My wife, who's in the audience, stands up in the audience and screams at the top of her lungs, "Stop being a fucking pussy." And then runs up, you know, to that. And then, you know, we change the numbers to whatever it's going to be. Where I'm going to pivot with that is, got a text message from Trevor, and he said, you deal with nerves a lot with your squat, and that your mother would come up to him and say, would you tell him to stop being a pussy?
Yes.
So that kind of cracked me up when I saw it.
He's referring to November 2018. It was a USPA Florida meet in Gainesville. I think that was the last, I think they call it the Thanksgiving Throwdown. No, they definitely call it the Thanksgiving Throwdown. Yeah, so that was actually my first, I want to say like real meet back after a knee injury where I competed in sleeves. In 2016, I fucked up my knee pretty bad. No diagnosis or anything. And then I came back in 2017 and did two like we'd call like tune-up meets, kind of built my confidence back. And then in November 2018, let me rewind. I did 2 meets in knee wraps in 2018, February and May. Then I took the wraps back off because I didn't really enjoy it, because the inconvenience of like having to have like training partners and what it wasn't like, but I didn't really have them consistently. So we went there November, and I was having knee issues. And it was pretty bad. Like I missed my opening squat. And then I think that's where my mom told Trevor to tell me to stop being a pussy. And I listened. And then I got my next 2 squats, did pretty well for the rest of the meet, all things considered. Yeah.
Were there nerve issues after that, or did that pretty much go away?
It went away. I mean, I don't want to completely say I miss the squats because like nerves. I really don't believe I get like in my head much during competition. I mean, I guess we could all say that, but I think at that particular meet, I really just fucked up my squat. I think I just rushed it and fixed that. Like I've been around long enough where I know if I'm just weak that day or if I fuck something up. So that day I just fucked something up.
Yeah. So it wasn't what they perceived it to be.
No, I think my mom was just flat out saying, stop being a pussy and hit your lift. Like, I don't think she was saying like, hey, he's nervous, tell him not to be nervous.
Yeah. So it was not a nerve or a fear type of thing. And which would surprise me with 30 or whatever competitions that you have under your belt.
Yeah. I don't really have the nerves anymore. I actually never really did, which is strange because I was always very nervous to even speak in front of people, like in high school. And that's when I started lifting weights. My first meet ever, my mom's been pretty much every meet I've done. My grandmother too, when she was alive, and they brought me to my first meet, still a teenager. And I told them, I was like, hey, like, we need to get this hotel, go to Tampa, and I'm going to do this powerlifting thing. And they're like, okay. And they get there. And I guess, like, after the fact, they told me they were pretty nervous. Like, these guys are huge. Like, he's just fucking little Asian kid with long hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess I was pretty good at it. I didn't know I was good at it. I don't even know why I decided to do it. But in front of all those people, like, I felt comfortable squatting, benching, and deadlifting. Well, you put me in front of my classmates in high school that I've known all year. You told me to give a speech or read a paper. I was petrified. So kind of strange how that works.
Yeah. Well, one you're kind of prepared for and the other you're not. Right. Because if you train for one, and that first meet, you were 17, I believe. Did you train for that? Or did you just jump in?
I just jumped in. I didn't know the difference between, like, quote unquote powerlifting training and what they call bodybuilding training. I just did some squats, benches, and deadlifts and train the body parts related to that. So, like, I would do squats, leg press, leg extension, go home, bench, chest, triceps, go home. And then I think deadlift, I would just do back work after it. That's it.
How did the meet come on your radar?
So I learned about, so back then they would call it like the big three, right?
Yeah.
So back then it was the bodybuilding.com forum, Animal Pack forum, your website, which I discovered probably around a year after I started powerlifting. But with the bodybuilding and Animal Pack forums, everyone had training logs, and there'd always be these titles like, my goal is to get to 1,000 pound total, the big three. And I'm just like, oh, what's that? Well, obviously I've bench pressed before, but squatting and deadlifting, I had no idea what it was. So I tried to squat. I was that kid that could, like, leg press. Like, we could all leg press, right? Like, whatever plates on each side. My legs are pretty strong. I tried to walk out 135 and what the fuck happened? Like, and then I guess it's kind of just like, so genetics matter, right? So like within 6 weeks, I was squatting 295 full depth for like sets of 6. So I adapted quick to that. My deadlift took me fucking forever. Like, I think it took me 2 years to deadlift 400 pounds. Like, okay, that's an exaggeration. 1 year to deadlift 400 pounds probably. And I just kept trying to add them up to hit 1,000. And I did in the gym. And then I ended up in the powerlifting subsection where there's a guy, his name's Bill Newman. I haven't talked to him in years, but he was very active on, like, all the forums back then. And he was the only one in the powerlifting section that actually competed. So I started asking him questions, and he's like, just do a meet. Go to Powerlifting Watch, pick a meet. I did. Don't know why I actually did it, because that's just not my thing. I've never done anything athletic in my life except that, if you want to call that athletic. And I just kind of fell in love with it. Like, I just became addicted.
What was your bench press at that meet?
290.
Okay.
Which is fucking weird. Like, I can't believe I did that. When
Yeah.
I was like 190, 17, and didn't know what I was doing. Like, no base of strength. Like, usually your high school kids were benching 300 plus if they're like the big football players. And that was with like we call like football form, right?
Yeah. Going through one of the podcasts that I listened to you on, you were training before that. I believe you were like curling at home and then
that's how I got
benching at the Y.
Yeah. So my dad, so him and my mom got divorced when I was 15, but he had a curl bar at the house. That's roughly when I started lifting weights. So like, he left that there. And I think every other day I just picked that up and put up whatever, like the screw on plates you can do. Actually, they're still in my closet, but I don't have the bar. And I just did as many curls as I could. And then I had my driver's license at the time. I just got it. So when I was 16, or my driver's permit. So I was waiting to go to the gym when I was 16 to start actually working out. So I was doing that every day. And then when I turned 16, I went to the gym every other day, benched whatever I could for like sets of 10. The next day I would go at home, do biceps, go back to the gym the next day. And then I just started going to the gym. I graduated.
Yeah. Did you, while you were doing that, did you find that the passion for training there, or was it just something you were just doing?
So I've always loved training. So let's go back to my dad. He used to belong, and my mom as well. They belonged to this gym called the USA Fitness. It was like the only gym in town. Now it's just kind of like fitness centers, and they're closed down. It was your typical, like, back then, older equipment. They had a little cardio room, a protein shake, smoothie bar. And whenever my dad went or my mom went, I would just go and just do everything I could. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but like I loved it. I couldn't wait to go because I always grew up like a fat kid. And I was even still like a fat kid when I was lifting. I just thought, well, if I start lifting weights, I'll just be less fat, but it doesn't work like that. And then I ended up getting less fat in high school. We can get to that later, but just I didn't drive or anything, so I couldn't get there whenever I wanted. But I was obsessed with it. I didn't know what anything was, what anything was called. But if I could stay there 5 hours, like I recall a day when my cousin's dad brought him and I to that same gym and just fucking dropped us off for like 6 hours. It was like time of my life. I loved it. Yeah. But then once I got into actual lifting and structure and became like obsessed with it through the internet, just reading everything I could, like nothing else fucking mattered. Like almost like now kind of like things still matter. And things that I probably should prioritize in my life, like mentally, they always take a backseat to my training, even if I have to skip the training. Like in my mind, the training is what I need to do. Getting better is what I need to do. So I've always had that mindset.
All the other organization follows that.
Yeah. Like when I got serious about powerlifting, I remember dropping a college course just so I could keep benching at Chad's house. Yeah.
And Chad Walker?
Yeah, Chad Walker.
Okay. So when you were there, how many people were in that crew?
Minimum 5. So we had like a stable. So when I started, it was Chad, Mark Schott, who I think powerlifted in Michigan with him, moved down with him, Donnie Daubert, Mike Franz, and Lee Lichtley. Like, I just don't know how to pronounce his name. I know it my whole life now. But that was like the stable group. And then we had people come in here and there. And then later on, we had other people become permanent people, the crew, I guess. And then, yeah, it's just how it was.
How did you not end up in gear?
It's funny. So I met Chad at my first ever meet, Chad and Donnie and Mike and Lee. They all did the first meet I did, the one that's not on open powerlifting. I did the meet and Donnie, he knew my mom. So my mom owned a Chinese restaurant. Go figure, right? She's actually the white one. My dad's the yellow one, right? So they came down here, they moved down here, opened that up. And they were the only and first Chinese restaurant in town. So like everyone kind of knew them. Coincidentally, Donnie was the cop that used to just go in there all the time. And then he told her that they trained at Chad's house and he gave me his number. And I was like, I was too intimidated to go. It was like my first meet. Chad, I think squatted 800 at that meet, like just big ass guy. I'm just a kid, right? So put that off. And I got more serious about powerlifting. I remember one day I was in the movie parking lot with my mom. I was like, man, Mom, I wish I still had Donnie's number because I broke my cell phone back then. And this was one like you couldn't sync your contacts and save them. So like, it was fucking gone.
Yeah.
And funny enough, that night I was at Buffalo Wild Wings for a UFC pay-per-view. Like I remember specifically the night. It was UFC 109, Randy Couture, Mark Coleman. They're all there. Donnie's not there, but Chad's there with some other guys. And he walks out of the bathroom like, hey, dude, you remember me? Can I like come train at your house? Gave me his number and I was there next week and I haven't looked back.
They weren't trying to like put you in briefs and shit like that.
No, I went in briefs once. I got in briefs once. It was actually a pair of Matt's briefs, Matt Kroc. So he was always good friends with Chad. And he had a pair that fit me. And I think that was my first 700-pound squat. I squatted like 630 raw, put those on one day for fun. And then I took them off and never put them back on. Yeah. And I don't know why I didn't. Like I always thought it was a cool sport because I know like, especially back then when Raw was getting big on the internet, it was always a bunch of shit talk back and forth between the two. And I think since I was exposed to it so early on, I understood the differences in it. Like, of course, the judging's a different story, but like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like anyone that like has like a level head can look at it and see like how it's different, whatever the case is, right? But I always thought it was pretty cool. I just had like raw goals, so I didn't really care too much.
Well, it's to me, there's two different crews when you're dealing with even single ply, just gear in general. The ones like doing everything that they can to try to suck everybody into it. Then the other ones really don't give a fuck as long as you're competing and moving forward. And it sounds like that's kind of the environment that you were in.
Yeah. So like I went there the first time I was at Chad's house because everything was on YouTube. So like when I started, everything was for equipped lifters. And I didn't even know that. Like my squat stance is wide, toes flared out. I thought that's how you're supposed to squat. So like my first time ever actually getting to a squat position, I did that and it stuck. I don't know if I just made it work or if like I just got lucky and that's what fit me best. When I go there, I'm like, fuck, like I'm gonna have to learn how to do these like box squats they all do, bands, chains. I didn't see Chad use a band or a box until I've never seen him really use a box unless it was raw. And he didn't use a band until like it was a reverse band 2-3 weeks out from a meet.
Mm-hmm.
So that transition, like everything I expected, I just trained how I normally did. Chad's training actually almost resembled mine to an extent, which was weird. And yeah, we just natural fit.
We're going to jump around a little bit. So I want to
course.
go into the American Pro that you just did. And we have we have videos, but you also wrote a good recap, you know, on your Instagram, but I don't need to read the recap because you're here to actually do the recap. So go ahead and throw up the squats. So you said with this one, you're training going into it. So let's go into that real quick. You're training going into it. Everything was dialed in outside of the training. So it takes a lifter a long time to figure out that sleep matters, nutrition matters, and we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
But for now, just in context, all those were close to or the best that they ever were, right?
Yeah, in a long time.
Okay. All right. So go back to that first lift. So what is this first attempt?
So this was my opener, 727. It was supposed to be easy as fuck. This was my third attempt. This is like literally the worst performance I've ever had. And I've had some pretty bad ones over the years.
Open 727.
Whoops.
Come on, Jordan, come on. All right.
Hey, look at that ass. Nah. So like if you actually see my
pause
face,
that for a second.
If you see my face in the bottom of that squat, it basically says, oh, what the fuck? Because so let's rewind to my training a little bit. This was my first meet at 190. Well, I did a meet in July at 198 just to be able to get on the roster for this at 198. Because I wanted to see if I could break the world record at 198. It was 804. So in my delusional, arrogant head, I guess, I was like, okay, I could get to an 805 squat with like a 15-pound weight cut, 17-pound weight cut. And really looking back, I feel like I should have, based on like what I've done before in the past. And the way my lifts felt in training, I thought it would be doable as like a hard third attempt. And it just obviously wasn't there that day. The weight cut was nothing I've really never done before. The recomp was better than anyone I've ever had. So in training, I've always been like a little bigger around the middle, like just fatter, whatever the case is. And I've always felt pretty damn stable underneath the bar. So this whole training cycle, I was getting used to squatting heavier weights at like anywhere between 214 and 217, like pounds everyday weight. And I was always so damn like shaky at the bottom. It just felt completely different. This day, I unracked the bar. Everything felt like from the warm-up room, everything felt like a feather on my back. Like I remember laughing in the warm-up room. I was like, holy shit, like this is gonna be a good day. I go out to the platform, same thing. Felt light as shit on my back. Excuse me. And when I was hitting the hole, I didn't feel that instability. But when I came out of the hole, I was just weak. Like it's like I hit a wall. And rewind to our previous conversation about just being around, knowing when it's like a technical error, strength, whatever. This was strength. Like there's nothing like it felt my pattern was great. I just didn't have it. And I have no idea why. Like the easy answer would be, well, you cut the weight, blah, 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 blah. But like I've cut weight before. When I first broke the squat record at 220, I cut like 24 pounds in a week with like Lasix. Irresponsibly. Didn't do it the right way at all. Still did it. So like, I don't know if it just reflects on training, kind of like I talked about in the meet recap a little bit, or I really don't think it couldn't have been mental either, because this was the best I've felt going into a meet since 2016. And I have not felt good going into any meet since then.
Yeah. And the warm-ups felt good.
Everything was good, except for the last one. But that's because we got a little rushed. Like I think a few people called their third attempts, but nothing I've never faced before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can play
the misses.
No. We can. What game can we play here? We can play the before you become a great power lifter. We can play the intermediate excuse power lifter. and just
Can't
say,
do
well,
it.
you know, the bar rolled.
Yeah, I can't fucking do that.
You know, the carpet was slick. And, you know, how many excuses can we come up with?
That drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah, I know that,
Oh,
but
man.
it's you know what I'm talking about.
You know
There's
what
like
also drives me
100.
nuts is when people make them for you. Like, I'm like, oh, it's your weight cut. You had to travel for this meet. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've been doing this shit fucking 14 years now.
Mhm.
Like, you think I'm not prepared for that?
Mhm.
Like, they could have put a fucking 35-pound bar up there and I would have been fine.
Yeah.
In theory. Like, yeah, that's the worst when people try to blame other things for your performance. And it's like, nah, dude. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You're trying to make me feel better. You believed in me. I fucked up. So you got to make yourself feel better. But I just fucking sucked that day.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of a mind fuck though, too, because you didn't fall out of the groove on the way down.
No.
I mean, technically everything there's solid, you know, so you're looking at, you kind of wish there was a technical glitch.
I wish it was. Man.
Because then it's easier to figure out what went wrong.
2 weeks prior, I
yeah.
spotted 771 better than that.
Is
So
is this the second now?
I haven't even watched these ones yet, the misses. So this will be a good one. I don't go far.
360.
A veteran in the sport, 347.5 kilos.
347.5 kilos, 766 pounds. Let's go, Jordan.
There's no gas.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like even Shane was like, do you want to go like 750 next? And I was like, maybe I'll get a second gear. Let's go 766. But
Then you tried to repeat that same thing.
Same thing happened.
Yeah.
Sit right out that hole.
Now, are you trying to make any corrections between these attempts or just
So
focusing on what to do right?
actually on this third attempt, like Shane, he squats wide like me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, try to just go a little wider because I have been going a little more narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Wong.
And even though like it looks like I got nowhere on that, I did feel a little better in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely gone away from like the wider flared out stance, even though it still always looks like I am than I used to. And I don't know why. So I kind of know why. Like I've had a knee issue on and off since, like I said, 2016. And sometimes, a lot of the time when I'm wide, for some reason, that's when it flares it up. When I'm just a little more narrow, which in theory, it should not be like that. It's a little better. But yeah.
All right. So now we're on to the bench.
So
Might go to 175 after and look for a 400 on.
Now,
Let's see how
pause
that-
for a
that
second
form
real
there.
quick. Was your pec acting up before this?
yeah, I was actually just going to mention that. So this is 363, right? Like just funny saying that because how light it is
Mhm.
from previous whatever. But in my mind, I was going to hit that squat. Like I had no doubts. So I was like, okay, my pec's been a little off feeling, nothing worse than it's ever been. And I was telling actually my spotter Eugene right there a couple weeks prior, another guy who was there, Larry, and I was like, I'm going to open at 363 because even if I strain my pec, I can just call it, but I know I can just not lose the record and bomb out because I fuck my pec up.
Mhm, mhm.
And we saw what happened. I got this, but this was actually the first day in weeks where my shoulder and pec did not hurt.
Yeah, he doesn't typically compete
Till
in
it
this
did.
weight class. That was a nice light touch. That was an easy.
That was
push.
good. Jordan might be good for 400 today.
Yeah.
If he makes a 175 call on 2, he's going to look to try to get over that 400-pound range. He's done it. his
So what
last
is this one?
4 meets.
385.
When he
This was
like,
the
already injured.
this is the attempt that cost
I
me
would expect this to
$15,000
be
tomorrow.
like
Mhm.
80 RP, like an RP9 bench, unless he gets that descent
Right
touch
there.
Really
So it's funny
hard.
because like
Yeah, see that he's gonna grab his shoulder.
When you watch it,
there is.
I get to my chest and I just go to press it. In my mind, maybe it wasn't like this, but when I heard it tearing on the way down, I felt like it just fell on me and they just pulled. I don't remember trying to press it. So I don't know if like I just mixed that up in my head because of the adrenaline,
Mhm.
but maybe it started to tear when I tried to press it. Yeah. And it's funny, again, I keep saying it's funny, but tearing my pec has been like my fear since I started powerlifting and knowing about injuries.
Mhm.
Like I fucked my back up really bad back in 2015. That was terrible. But I've seen so many people like post the pictures with the bruising and the torn pec.
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be very painful. Like we talked about
Yeah.
before, it doesn't even like I feel like I could go bench right now.
Yeah.
But
Go to his all-time best bench.
yes.
Come on, Jordan.
Tore my pec with 385.
Okay. Now you were saying technically things have changed since you've strained the pec, training for that meet. So what's different with your bench now than there?
So not so much technical. So this was 2016. And so my bench always kind of seemed to stabilize between 462 and 484, depending on the meet. And I got a little smaller, like I lost some body fat. So that probably contributed to some of the strength loss. But really, I was just stuck there for a while. And then March or April of 2020, my friend and I, we were doing, it was during COVID. We were just training at my house. All the gyms were closed down. My friend Joe and I were doing 225 for reps every week, trying to get it up. I got to like 34 reps. And the next week it went to like 27 and then 22 and then like 16 and then like 11. I was like, all right, what the fuck is going on? And pretty much my left tricep and left lat, they just seem to shut off. Like I could do a tricep push down, never feel a contraction, lat pull down, never feel a contraction. And then ever since then, it just kind of went up and down, up and down. But when I say up and down, it would be between the ranges of 275 and 413. So like it went 485 to 429 at the power surge meet I did in October 2020. And then after that, that's when it really started to go downhill. And I've just been fighting like hell to get it back to where, shit, I don't even say back to where it was, like even 440 I'd be at, right? And then I'm not going to act like I know what I'm talking about here, like anatomically, but I feel like whatever was going on there kind of screwed my shoulder up a little bit. My serratus was always really tight. I was always, like I said, I'm not a genius, but like quote unquote compensating for something. And if you go to the American Pro bench, when they had that top angle, you could see one arm.
Yeah, go back to that American Pro bench.
Like from the top angle, you can see my right arm flared out like it should be. My left arm tucked all the way to the side. So it looks like I'm gripping completely different.
I would
And I've had
expect
spotters,
this to be like an RP
like,
80,
just
right,
like, what
and that go back.
like an RP 9
Right,
bench.
hold on.
Unless he gets that descent touch really on.
There.
Yeah,
see like my right
he's
arm
gonna grab his shoulder,
flared out like it should,
there it is,
left
pec.
right by my side.
Yeah, so you're protecting it.
Yeah, so like I'm assuming for a very long time, that left arm that's closer to my body has been, like maybe the word is compensating, whatever the case is, was wrecking my pec over time and my shoulder. Because like look at mine.
Yeah.
Because, like even without the torn pec, like and I've never had shoulder issues. Like shoulder mobility problems, getting underneath the bar sometimes, yeah. Like I've never not been able to do like Y raises or overhead press. And like, not to play tough guy, but like there's never any pain. It was just very bad restriction. So
now when you were bouncing around with trying to figure that out over the years, what things did you try? What things helped? What things didn't help? Because I've been in that boat. You're doing everything.
So fucking frustrating. And like, so we're talking about the strength lost in the left arm.
Yeah, because it's nerve. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So you're hitting it from everything.
Because everyone has their own theory, right?
Yeah.
So like no one actually knows.
Yes.
Even if they have a good idea and even if they're kind of right, it's kind of a weird thing on how to address it. But like I've spent countless amount of dollars on like ART. So the massage really wasn't for that. That was just whatever. But ART, dry needling. Coincidentally, the girl that did my dry needling, she was doing physical therapy for me for that about a year prior. Off the books, whatever. She worked at a different place. And I worked with like Trevor on it because he coached me on and off for a while. So we tried to fix it. Tony Rogers out of Fort Lauderdale. He's a strength coach chiropractor. Nothing worked, like anything. Like, yeah, I had no idea. I'm sure there's more I tried. I reached out to many different people, tried my own things. I thought maybe it was just something as simple as getting some shoulder stability back. So I'm just doing fucking kettlebell presses. Like it's going to do anything. Yeah, but honestly, nothing, man. There wasn't any pharmacology that could help that. So I couldn't even resort to that. I mean, I could and just say maybe I'm trying it, but nothing.
So when you were laying out training cycles or meet prep phases or whatever people call it today, how would you lay that out with this in mind? Because did you have any indication that it was up and down?
So since that time frame, I've worked with like a couple different coaches. Trevor was one of them. Trevor was like the main one on and off. So with him, we kind of just resorted to quote unquote like RPE stuff, like try to hit what we can get for that day because it was so sporadic. Like one day I could smoke a 400-pound bench and one day I could barely move 335. So we kind of just try to figure out what we would do for that day. But in the end, progress really wasn't made because it was just like I'd have a good day, I'd have a bad day, and it would just be like any given day. So to answer your question, it was just guessing. Because there's no way I could just say, well, I know this is going to happen. Like with my squat, I could just lay out on a pen and paper right here, 16 weeks out, what I probably need to do, plan for at least a few days where I have to change my mind on the spot. Like kind of like you spoke about many times with people, like you drive to the gym and you change your mind 15 times.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's going to happen. But with the bench, you couldn't do that because you had no idea. Whether it was pain, weakness. Yeah.
Now you're very good at looking back at your own training with a critical eye because you've essentially kind of always coached yourself with other people giving insight here and there.
Yeah.
So when you look back on that meet, and granted, it's not going to change what you're going to have to do going forward because rehab is going to come from pec surgery and so forth. What are some of the takeaways that you had looking back through the training leading up into this meet?
The American Pro?
Yeah.
So I feel like the way my training was structured, it started out really good. Actually, I feel like I did pretty well throughout. I didn't have really many bad days, but I feel like I was lacking some accessory work and I kind of married the number on some days, right? Like some days I would just go a little too light. Some days go a little too heavy, and whatever number is on the plan, I would just do. Sometimes I would up it just a little bit, but like, that's it, just for like ego purposes. But I was doing a lot of the same accessory work because in my mind, I was like, all right, well, because in the past I spent so much time trying to find like those perfect accessory movements. And I'm like, I got a pretty good base. I've been around for a long time. Like I'm not going to change my row variation, get much out of it. Right. And let's just focus on doing the right amount of volume and intensity, depending on where we're at, depending on how you define intensity in the training cycle. So I think I really, like we spoke about earlier, I was so obsessed with getting like the lifestyle factors in order where I was not going into my training sessions with like an obsessive attitude. Like in the past, like when I did the first 220 record, there's a story going into that, which maybe we can get to, but I was so obsessed with the numbers I laid out on paper where like you could burn the building around me and I would hit those and then leave the building. This one, it was like, all right, I just got to hit this, but I got to make sure I go home and eat all my food, or don't go eat pizza tonight and go to bed on time.
So leading into that 220 record, not that exact, but getting the years before that. So you start off, a rookie in the sport, and then you're educating yourself probably more so than most, right? And you're starting to put together your own training philosophy in the earlier time.
So I was very fortunate. I've always said this. I started out on my own, but I have a very obsessive, like addictive personality. So when I really like something, I kind of just only think about that, read as much as I can, practice as much as I can. I feel like we're all kind of like that to some degree. And then I ended up with Chad, as we talked about. But then when I met Chad, he had resources like Brian Carroll, Adam Driggers, like those guys up in Jacksonville. And then I was allowed to be like allowed, like I was the kid who was getting invited with him to go train with these people. They'd go on trips to Michigan and I would just train around them, learn from them. And I wouldn't even like pick their brain by asking questions. I would just observe. And then of course they would give me the advice and I would just put it together for myself. And I think I've always been very good at being objective and not playing like the role of doing what I want to do rather than doing what I should do. Because like, to me, it's all fun in a weird way. So yeah. And then when I got a little better at lifting, I like got sponsored by Animal. So I started hanging out with guys like Dan Green, like even Andre, whatever. But he didn't speak English, but like I was still around him, watching what he did. All those guys. So like throughout my powerlifting like journey through like 2010 to 2016, 17, I was around like 3 to 4 different generations of lifters from different areas, single ply, multiply, raw. If you want to say raw with wraps, whatever the fuck that is. Yeah. So
what were some of the takeaways that you observed between all of them that were common?
Like all the different sports?
Yeah. Well, all the different generations of lifters, because there's going to be things that they're all doing.
So
the nuances and the things that they don't do, but that's what everybody talks about online.
Yeah. I feel like any like beginner lifter that listens to this are going to think I'm going to say like those top guys that I was with, like the strongest guys of their time, were doing the weird fancy things. They just stuck to the basics and maybe had slightly different philosophies. Like Brian, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, like the deload program or 10-20 life program. Chad was more of like week 1, hit a top set of 5, week 2, top set of 3, then maybe a heavy single, depending on where he's at. Like he would even do sets of like 8 sometimes in briefs. Like I've never seen that before. The stronger raw guys around like the 2015 era when it started to explode, they also just stuck to the basics. Like Sam Bird was a guy I always looked up to because I was like always good at squatting. He was always a good squatter. We were in like the same weight classes. And he's the only one, him and Jay Nara, that I remember doing anything different than like the other guys. And it was front squats they really focused on, and what's the word? Compensatory acceleration. Yeah. So they did stuff like that. And that was the only like different thing I saw, which I didn't fully understand it at the time. So I kind of just said, all right, well, I got to go back to what I get.
What about just behavior in the gym, mindset, attitude?
Oh, dude, they were, so like your strongest guys were always the most helpful. They all had the same mindset. Like if they were dicks, they weren't like dicks to other people. They were just dicks because they were probably pissed at themselves at a bad workout or something. Like always a positive environment. Like even like with Brian, right? Like, you know, Brian, like cracking jokes, like he could be like kind of a dick, but he means it in good, like a good way.
Yeah.
He'd help you no matter what. And even if like you kind of disagreed with him on something and it almost rubbed him the wrong way, he would still help you out. So like they were all good people. Like,
yeah.
To sum it up.
Well, you're a young lifter at the time, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that that happen within training environments and training crews that are you can't explain. You know, like what they do between sets, how they approach a bar.
Yeah.
You know, just the seriousness behind how they take it, but also
that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's big. So something that drives me nuts now, especially as a gym owner, since I see a lot of people, like I love all these people. They come in, they train hard, they hit their goals, they try to hit whatever. But like, I can't get over they have a big day, 2-3 weeks out from a meet, got to hit a big single PR, whatever the case is. I see them in between sets with this fucking thing, like just on their bench going like this. And like, how are you preparing for this? And like, these are the same people that are like, oh, I hate deadlifts, I hate bench. I'm like, we don't fucking take it seriously. Like, you're on the bench talking about what you're doing this weekend on your fucking phone, scrolling through Facebook. You got 95% on the bar in 3 minutes, and that's how you're preparing. But with the guys back then, like you'd walk in there and at a certain point in warm-ups, you could just feel the environment change where like, if you speak about anything else but lifting, they're just going to ignore you. Like, they won't tell you shut the fuck up, but they'll just not say anything enough where you know, like, all right, let's probably shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way I like to define that is there's a lot of fucking around and talking about all kinds of other shit until it starts.
Yeah. So like that would be what some people would define as like the whole flipping the switch.
Yeah.
Like at a certain part of the training session or the day, like you just know like that stretching out, bullshitting about whatever you're bullshitting about, that's got to end. And then as soon as the day's over and accessories come, kind of comes back a little bit. Then you go out to eat and then you pretty much forget you ever even trained hard and then just redo it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a huge takeaway because they don't see that on social media because all they see is the actual lift.
Yeah.
You know, they don't see anything that happens between that, you know, and even if guys are fucking around between sets, they're just fucking with each other. I mean, it's still their mind's still on that next set, but they're not sitting there in a chair. Not all of them, you know, focusing just on that next set for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But they know what they need to do.
Like when it's time, it's time.
Yeah.
You just have to shift all focus to that one lift for what? Like Shane always says to me, everything perfect for like 25 seconds. Like when I'm walking up to the bar, Shane Holler.
Yes.
So when we get to train together, like you always hear his voice. Like, you know exactly what he's going to say. He's going to talk some shit in your ear and just say 25 perfect seconds. So like, and that's even from the empty bar. Like everything's with intent with him. And yeah, just to piggyback off, like talking about him really quick. he's someone that is more in like this era's top guys, like we talked about back from 2010, 2016, totally different. Like his numbers are huge. Like, you know, obviously you know him. So like training with him and watching how he is with everyone in the gym, like not to suck his dick or anything, but he's like your model training partner to like anyone. Like you could have a kid squatting 225 and he's going to go at that kid with the same intensity, like with an attitude, than his good friend Craig Foster, who squats 1,000. Like he's just there to motivate people. When it's time for himself to lift, he gets himself there. When it's done, he's back to normal. Yeah.
I can't remember who the lifter was, but it was when the WPO was very large at the Arnold, and his lifter was getting ready to squat, and he said, so it was something along the lines of what you just said. It's whatever you do, just don't fuck up the next 15 seconds. Like you can fuck up the rest of your life. You can fuck up all this, but you just don't fuck up. Then it proceeded with, now how hard is it to just not fuck up for 15 seconds?
Yeah.
Right. It's not that hard. And then, you know, she went out and squatted all-time world record or whatever it was.
Like think about it. Those 15 set, like I think with powerlifting, if you do it, what most people would consider intelligently, if you fuck up in those 15 seconds, you can't right that wrong for 6 months minimum. You have to go back, you have to get healthy. Then you have to, like, depending on what type of lift you are, untested or tested, come off of things, get yourself healthy in a different manner, then train a little differently, then ramp up for a meet. So like if you fuck up 2 meets in a row, that's like 2 years of being fucking pissed at yourself. I'm the poster boy for that sometimes, like as you can see.
Well, that comes with the territory though too. You know, if you're in it long term, these are just shit you're going to have to realize and deal with.
Yeah, that's something I'm starting to experience with the lifters at my gym. Like when they all started around the same time, because they all kind of got into the sport roughly when I opened it, the gym, they were doing whatever the fuck they wanted and their numbers are just flying through the roof, you know? And now they're like, man, like my bench has only gone up like 10 pounds in the last 6 months. I'm like, well, good for you. Like that's really good at this point, because at a certain point, you're going to do training cycles with -10, but your squat might go up 15. And the quicker they realize this, I feel like is the better relationship they develop with the sport, because they get so obsessed with the numbers have to go up every time or like I'm a failure. So once they realize that, it's cliche, but enjoying the process, you know?
Well, that becomes an important thing. I think it was the first podcast I did with Dave Hoff, because I was very interested in, you know, after I left Westside, what it looked like for the 15 years after that. And one of the things that he said that really resonated is if you watch lifters over a long period of time, you'll see that they have like a couple year rise, right?
I remember
past the beginner games, right? Then there's like a lull, and you got to realize you're in that.
Yeah.
Right. So just write it out and then you just wait for the next one to come. And the ones that burn out, get injured, don't make it are the ones that can't write that out because they can't wrap their head around. And that's what, when he was explaining that, that's how so many people, because I went back and looked and you can see, okay, they're done. You know, they're done.
And you can think of some pretty, what you'd consider like big names in sport, especially on the raw side, where like if you look at it like a stock chart, it's like boom here, but then you just flatten out. You see it's constant. But then when you look at like the 10-year span, you'll see that, but it'll go like this, and then all of a sudden it goes here. Then again, it just levels out or drops a little bit. But like if they don't stick around for longer than 4 or 5 years, you're probably not going to see like their highest potential.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
there's no way. No way.
Yeah,
you know, and sometimes I wonder, it's during those time periods, changing lifestyle factors can make a difference. I mean, I'm not going to say that they don't, but some people never even do that.
Yeah.
And it still, you know, comes back up that again.
Because the lifestyle thing is weird too, because just like anything, you have your genetic freaks. Like you have the guys that can just eat fast food every day and just be fucking jacked, like get stronger and all that. But then you have the people who are not them, which is a lot of people, like especially in powerlifting. I mean, like especially now, because powerlifting is something like that's fun for people to do. So you're going to get more of your like everyday average people that just like to work out and then want to have a little more purpose with their training. And those people can get away with those newbie gains for a while, but then they have to be like, okay, well, I got to fix my diet a little bit, see how I'm managing my stress. Am I watching Netflix all night and waking up at 5 a.m. to go to work? And then once they like get a grasp of that, then I feel like their performance gets a little better.
Well, the tricky part of this whole game is when you're younger, you can get away with it.
Yeah. And I never fucking believe that. So like, I don't think I'm old, but like I'm 32 now. I started this when I was 17. Let's do some quick Asian math here. 6 years into it. So I was 23 when I broke that first record. It's been 9 years, man. Like, 8.5 years. And I haven't gotten that much better because like we talked about, the whole real life things happen. Like I got my first real job, had to manage my schedule different. Like when I was young, I waited on tables, bus tables. I went to college. College was fucking easy because I was going for like
Criminology, yeah.
Which like I only did that because I had to pick something to graduate. Other like criminology, I could just do my work and just keep going to the gym. I used it as an excuse to myself. I was like, well, maybe I'll go to law school. Like, because I feel like I'm pretty intelligent, like when I need to be with school wise, but only if I actually really care about it, right? Just like anything else. But where I was in life, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was just trying to satisfy like the society's requirements of, well, you got to go to college and get a good job. So I was like, well, let's just delay that good job shit and go to some sort of graduate school.
Yeah.
So let's pick the easiest degree I can get just to figure out what kind of school I'm going to go to. If I need to take other courses, whatever. And that didn't work. And then I was waiting tables, like I said. I worked security at a bar just for some extra money. And woke up and trained, ate, and that's all I did. Like
that time period in college, though, you learned how to study, right?
Actually, I was a much better student in high school. So
really,
yeah, I've said this many times to my mom. So my mom always set like a high expectation for me. Like again, like I know I made this joke earlier. She's not even the Asian parent, but she always wanted like the A's, and like if I got a B, she's like, "Why you do that?" But not in that voice. And so I did, but I figured out at a very early age, and I still believe it to this day. You have to not give a shit about anything to not be able to get like A's and B's in high school, because all you got to do is do your work. Like the way they set the school system up, you do your work, you pass 1 or 2 out of 6 tests, and you show up, you're getting at least an 80%, man. Like, yeah, which is a B. So even if you just try a little harder than that, you can guarantee yourself a good grade. Most teachers, they gave some sort of extra credit. So if you fucked up a test really bad, you righted that wrong by default. And then I got to college. It really wasn't like that anymore. I'm like, oh shit, like I actually have to sit on this computer, do all this work. I still got the appropriate grades that like I should have got, but it required more time, but also more bullshit. Because in college, with the classes I took, it was just like, how long of a paper can you write and cite these sources? You know, so
yeah.
So
it's, if I'm understanding you correctly, the whole time in college, training was still your first priority. College is way, yeah, that's how I was.
I was in school with a piece of paper, writing out training cycles for meets that I haven't even done yet. I was like, if I compete in November, it's January now, I'm going to start this in July, and then July, August, September, October, right into November 1st or whatever. Like that's how I was in school.
Yeah. Here's a question I have for you that I can't even answer for myself. So it'll be interesting because when I look back, I was exactly the same way. I mean, training was first.
Yeah.
I don't even say there wasn't a second. There was like 100.
Yeah.
There was nothing. It was that far below. I don't know why in the fuck I kept going, you know? So, but I did.
So for me, it was more of because it was expected of me, I guess, like from a parents or whatever, which like when we grow up, like you want to like make your parents proud and shit, right? Like, and this isn't like, oh, my parents made me go to college, it was so stressful. It was nothing like that. But just like anything, like you and I our thought processes are different than most people. So when you just put that into the college perspective and the lifting perspective, no one's going to even if it weren't lifting, if it were something else, no one's going to actually understand like, why does he give a shit about that but doesn't care about something that's going to give him a career? Well, like, look at us now. Like, I'm not saying I made money off of powerlifting, but because of powerlifting, I got into personal training, got into the gym industry, own my gym. I host meets. I coach people remotely, in person, all this other shit. You look at this, like this is fucking crazy. Like you didn't need college for this.
No, but the only thing I can kind of fall back on is I wanted to finish what I started, and I didn't know if I could, walk away and not know if I could have finished it. So there was that thing, and I was taking like 1 or 2 classes a semester. It wasn't, it took me 7 years to get a bachelor. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was a couple hours a day.
So mine took a little longer than it should have, but only because I didn't want it to end, because I didn't want to face that, what I thought would be my life of like that real life job shit. I was like, all right, well, fuck this. I'm going to keep waiting tables because I'm bringing home as a kid, minimum $100 cash a night. That's a big fucking deal. And like, I'm going to keep doing this. Like, fuck this. I'm going to go work for real and then have a schedule and not be able to lift when I want to. Like, so
I can relate to that.
So I just kept changing like my majors. I'm like, oh, I don't like this, so I'm going to change to this. Like, I went to school for like education, psychology. I think I even almost switched to for like a minor, and ultimately ended with criminology just because the money was running out. Because I had the Bright Future Scholarship from high school, Florida prepaid. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to start paying for the shit on my own, so I have to figure this shit out. And then I got my degree. And like we spoke about earlier, I was like, I'm going to find a graduate degree to keep delaying this shit. I don't give a shit the classes are going to get harder, but like, I want to keep living the life I live. And it didn't happen. I just got lucky. Like, really, I got lucky. I one of my good friends, his name is Francisco, knew him since middle school. He asked me where I was working. I told him, well, I'm at the restaurant, but I have a security job. And I got him a job there. So I used to drive him there. He's like my next door neighbor, basically. And he's like, hey, I go to this gym. Like, you really like working out. You should be a personal trainer. I was like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I was helping out other powerlifters with lifting and stuff, but like, I can't go to a gym and be like, go on this medicine ball and shit. And then I end up applying for the job, get a phone call 4 months later. Like, I guess I'll go in. And they go, oh, we'll get you certified. Dude, the certification, one of the questions was, which muscle is like not on the leg? And it says like a pec or something. And I'm like, all right, so like, here's my fucking personal training certification. I'm so smart, guys. And then I started making pretty good money doing that. But that's where, like, now that I'm thinking about it now, like, that's where my biggest fear came into play, because I started making a lot of money. And that whole having to put training in a back seat started to take over my life. Like, I was working 5 a.m. to 11 a.m., 2-hour break, which essentially would have been good for my training. I was tired as shit. So I went home, took a quick nap, went back and trained till 8 p.m. So that was like my 2017 through 2019. And that's where, it's funny that we're talking about this out loud now, because everything I just said I didn't want to do, I ended up doing it anyways, not getting that college degree that would have made me do that.
So when you started the personal training, I assume most of your clients were Gen Pop.
100%. And when I did get the one girl that wanted to do powerlifting, it was weird as fuck, because it's like, okay, here's your set. All right, awkward silence for 5 minutes. Go do your next set. All right, our 30 minutes is up. I got to go to this next lady. We got through a quarter of your workout. Just text me if you have any questions. And then, that was always the weird thing.
Now, if your hours went from 5 a.m. to, 8 or 9 p.m., then you had to be good at what you were doing. Right. Because you have to have the clients to be able to stretch that time period out. And there's cancellations and there's gaps and shit. That's just part of the game. But how did you build your clientele? Or is it just in your DNA that if this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability? Because not all personal trainers can do that. If you were there a few years, you saw many that came in that couldn't keep a client load of more than 2 or 3 clients.
Oh, yeah. It was a combination of a lot of things, right? So like to this day, I am a terrible salesperson, right? So like you worked in that industry where it's like you get a member, you book a free session, try to sell it to them. And I was never good at doing that in the sense of how they trained you to do it. I feel like the people I did close in the sales perspective, it was just because I was myself around them and they liked it, and they didn't like that I was like trying to sell them on something with like a script. Like, here's this, if we do this here, because I knew that was all bullshit. Like, I can't look someone in the eye and be like, if you do this for 6 months, you're definitely going to lose 2 pounds a week. In 36 weeks, you're going to lose 72 pounds and all that.
Or,
like,
but let's figure out how much money you're spending not getting in shape.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But the ones that kind of understood or trusted me, I got them. And then the other aspect was I was there for a little bit, but since I ended up working so much, people saw that I was there with everyone. Like, because there's a high turnover. Like, there always be a joke, like, oh, who's going to come in and be gone next week, like, employee-wise. So they would start coming up to me and just organically we'd start working together. Another thing, just like anything else, I think every successful person has a little bit of luck, whether we like to admit it or not. Like, I had 2 trainers there that had decent client loads. So when they got fired or quit, I got at least some of them. So that would always kind of like line my pockets with like the extra money, but they always stuck around. So like, at least I could confidently say I had the skill set to retain the client and keep them going, doing what they wanted to pay for.
Well, if they're making progress, you're going to get the referrals from that client as well.
And that's how it built.
Yeah. And now over a period of time, you were offered a management role.
Yeah. So this is where it got weird, because that turnover thing we talked about, all of our good trainers fizzled out. They got fired, they quit. They were really good, got lazy, had to get fired. And then I was the one that was always in that role. Like, I was always not in that role. I was always there. So I was always alongside the training manager at the time. So it was like almost like on the job training, where I was getting trained for that job and actually just owning a gym when you really look at it, because you learn the business. And since I was just always there, naturally, when he got promoted, I just stepped in his role because I understood the game. And I'm also obsessive over things too, right? So like the COO of the company, her name was Rebecca. She knew how like adamant I was about building like my own wallet, right? Because like, yeah, we like to train people, but when you're making money, you want to make more. Like, I was 25 years old and I was making pretty good money for just going to the gym and hanging out with people. And it was awesome. So once I learned how to just run the systems and stuff like that, and just go on a few manager calls every week and just sit there with it on mute and just bullshit with my friends, like, yeah. Just
Yeah, see, that I had the opposite experience, because while I was doing that, it was longer than what I did for 8 years.
Yeah.
Where moving to that role, and it was offered twice, meant I would have to cut way back on my clients, which is a pay cut.
I actually forgot to mention that. That's actually what popped into my mind first. That's why I laughed. So what happened was all these people left. So my higher ups, they had a system where like, hey, dude, you can only train 10 people. You're going to make your money on your salary and your sales commission. Well, they can't tell all these people you can't train with anyone. So I get them all. So in the last 2 years or so I was there, it was like me, another girl, Linda, who is a member at my gym now, and she also started out. She was the only successful trainer I had at that gym, the commercial gym, that built her own book. But aside from her, everyone else was in and out within like a month or two, because like it just wasn't for them for whatever reason. So all those people I had and acquired, I was making so much money because I was a full-time personal trainer, making more commission because I was the training manager per session. And I had to fulfill the management duties, which they're really not that hard as a personal training manager. You book clients or whatever. But the thing is, a lot of them never show up. So you're getting your booking numbers, and then I'm just there longer, making a lot more money. But when I'm there longer with my breaks, I'm just hanging out lifting. So like, I got a huge pay raise doing pretty much no extra work. And I'll admit that. I'm not going to be like, oh, I worked my fucking ass off as a training manager. I sold all these people. Like, it just worked out where I continued to be their top personal trainer in terms of production, but I also got paid a salary because they just needed to pay that salary.
So how did you, with all this going on, where did you put your own training?
Oh, it started to fucking suck. It got terrible. Like I said, if you look at like my open powerlifting, it's like I was on that big run. I don't even want to call it a big run, but like my numbers are pretty high, right? Then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this total dropped like 80 pounds. And then you could blame it on the injuries and stuff, but the amount of effort I could put into anything training wise suffered because, like we spoke about before, nothing else mattered. It was just training, school. I would just do the bare minimum, get by. I worked 5 to 6 hours a night, made enough money to buy whatever I wanted, still went to college, all that stuff, slept in, could do whatever, you know? Then all of a sudden it's like, shit, I gotta wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get to the gym by 5:30, and then somehow eat some food in between all these clients to the point where I'm like, fuck this. Like, I'm going to eat during my sessions.
Yeah.
And I still do that. And it's like, now I own my own shit and they know it's like, hey, like, I'm going to do this. I'll tell them up front. Like, hope you don't care, but I'm going to do it anyways. But even when I had a boss, I was like, yeah, I'm eating my food. Like, I don't give a fuck. And so I try to make it work that way. But in terms of like the training, it was just so hard to get up for it because the training environment was gone because I wasn't training with Chad and them anymore because their schedules couldn't line up.
You were training in the same place you were working too?
Yep. Yeah. And it was like your typical commercial gym. So like I go from like monolift, squat bar, even though I walked out of the monolift up until the last few years, like shitty power racks, these benches that were like this high off the ground, those hoist benches. Like it was just terrible. And like no music, or if it was the music, it was like Celine Dion. And it's just, I hated it.
So at what point did you start trying to figure out an exit route?
For the career?
Yeah, for the personal training.
I was kind of stuck, man. The best thing that could have happened to me under that subject was COVID. So it hits, we get a phone call. I'm like, all right, well, at this time, I was married, I had a house, and I had a 3-car garage with my own personal gym, and like my friends would come over and live sometimes. And the day we all got like shut down or whatever, I went up to Linda, who I talked about earlier. I was like, hey, message all your people. Here's my address. You can train them out of my house. Keep making your money. It's like, I wanted her to keep making money because she works so hard. I didn't want her to, she came from like, she had a stable job, gave that up, busted her ass to start making money, and she was successful. So I was like, I don't want you to lose this. Then for myself, I was like, I can't lose this either. Like, and I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm going to make all this money now and I have to give it to the gym. And then I ended up opening my house to fucking literally everyone. Like people were driving from like 60 miles away to come train because every gym was shut down. So I had a sign-in sheet and I was collecting like $5 a day from everyone. And like there's no less than 50 people per day, Monday through Sunday, coming to my house and lifting. And during that time, I had a lot more free time. And that's when I was like, fuck, like I'm like training whenever I want. Like I'm training on just my own stuff now. And it got fun again. And then we went back to the gym and I never fully get back into it because a lot of people, surprisingly, even like the Gen Pop, wanted to train in my hot ass garage and just give me the money. So 4 or 5 months went by. We got a phone call that it was going bankrupt. And I was like, all right, well, we'll keep doing this out of my house, but now I have to open my own gym, which I kind of was silently wanting to do, like from the personal training studio aspect. And that just forced me to do it.
Why didn't you go that personal training aspect only?
Like the studio? Oh,
yeah, like a personal training. Yeah, instead of the gym.
So I don't know. I really don't. So my friend Joe Milschlagel, he's a bodybuilder now, but he used to power lift. He was a real estate guy. And he came with me to look at the spot and I wanted that one unit. And there's 2 units side by side. And he's just like, just get them both and open like a real gym. I was like, that's like twice the money, man. He's like, no, just do it. Like, he's like one of those guys that I believe he's very successful because he just does something. And you have to make it work. So he pretty much convinced me in like 3 sentences. I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. And then I brought all my stuff over, bought more stuff. And then he was right. People just came because everyone came from the commercial gym that closed down that like I trained or that knew me. I don't want to say everyone, but a lot did, enough to get me started where I could pay the bills almost right off the bat without going to my own training money. And then just kind of built a reputation. Like I still haven't even advertised the fucking gym yet, which I need to because to grow, I have to and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Let's take a bathroom break real quick. Today's episode is brought to you by LMNT, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With LMNT, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drank 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, LMNT is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packages free with any LMNT order. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend and LMNT will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinklmnt.com/Table Talk. One of the best ways that you can support the podcast and your training is to join the crew. When you join the crew, you get an extra crew cast podcast every single month. You also get access to our Discord, which has a training Q&A with Team Elite FTS members. You get form checks. You can upload any of your training footage and have your lifts diagnosed, sometimes within minutes, by multiple people. Access to close to 30 different ebooks, training logs, and first sign up access to our weekend training retreats, train your ass off, and other events that we do. Biggest takeaways from that, though, what people enjoy the most and get the most out of is the training Q&A and the form checks, as well as the extra podcast. Hey guys, I'm back in the gym with another limited edition apparel drop. This is the new Live, Learn, Pass On shirt. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our cambered grip American cable attachment. This attachment has 4 grips and it's cambered. So when you flip it, it actually becomes 8 grips. And if you turn it upside down, there's actually 16. This is one of our most used cable attachments out in the gym. Even got that full range of motion. We got a second limited edition drop this month as well. Head over to EliteFTS.com, pick up the shirt, pick up the cable attachments, and we'll see you next time.
Matt with EliteFTS here at the Armory in Columbus, Ohio. This is a new build, beautiful facility. Should be opening up around November 1st, 2023. Looking at the posterior chain developer, signature version. It's going to have the logo panels on there. Reverse hypers, you can do glute ham raiser, back raise, any kind of posterior chain movement you want to do on this piece. This is really good. The best thing about this, so you just step down on the release, adjust it. So it makes it really easy to adjust these, no pop pins or anything of those sorts. So this is the signature posterior chain developer by EliteFTS.com.
Where I want to jump back a little bit is in, it seems to be around the same time when you started personal training in the club. Somewhere like 2012, 2013, 2014. 2017. Okay. So it's a little bit later, but it still kind of fits with where I'm going to go with this. There's been different growth spurts of raw, throughout the years. People can debate if it was raw before gear, but that's not relevant at this point because we're like 1950 or wherever you're going to go back before all that. But I don't know the exact date of when the first raw unity was, but that would be one of the first. Actually, there was another one before that was like the start, but around 2012 was a tipping point. 2012, 2013, and you were part of that wave, of the top guys pushing that through there.
I think my first raw unity was 2012.
Yeah.
And that was like my big goal, was just to fucking qualify for it.
Yeah. But the 2012, 2013, 2014, that's when it just started to get big. It really started to get big, and what kind of sucks is right when that's kind of right at its peak, your strength is kind of right at its peak. Mm-hmm. You end up doing exactly what you didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. Training Gen Pop people, watching ESPN all fucking day. Pretty much. And, but it broke your stride a little bit during that time. Would that be fair to say?
Quite a bit, man.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
And, so what was that like as you're dealing with all that, watching all the other guys still killing it?
It was rough because it wasn't just the whole, start of the career thing. it was somewhat forced from like nuisances, like injuries and stuff like that. So like my biggest total to the day is, I hate to say this, but 2016. If you want to get technical, my best dot score is in like 2021, but like biggest total of the day was 2016. And then I got my first, like the knee injury I was speaking about was in November of that same year. And then right after that is when I started to work at the gym. And then that just compounded on top of each other. So it was like hard coming back from that, always working, never eating or sleeping, just living off Bang energy drinks and like donuts all day. Ironically enough, working at a fucking gym, I become unhealthy. But
well, looking back on that growth spurt now, you can see it a little bit different because it's further back away, where while you were in it, I don't think you even knew that you were in it.
Oh, I was,
you know,
looking
because
back, I was so obsessed with it. Like, that's all I thought about.
But it was, the whole sport was moving in that direction too. So it was changing the sport entirely, with you guys kind of the real influencers without actually being influencers.
And I hate to like say this because it's like it's almost like corny to, I don't even want to say it's corny. It's almost embarrassing for me to say, because I'm not someone that's like if you look at my social media, I'm not someone that's just always like trying to influence people and shit like that. But like back then, during that time frame when I was exploding, like when you were talking about, and when I was like hitting my stride, that was the only time in my life where like I was good at something, at something where I actually cared about. So like growing up, I was never athletic. I was always kind of like the fat kid, whatever. And I ended up being really good at powerlifting, especially for that time era. And that's when Facebook became a thing, Instagram became a thing. So like for the first time in my life, I was like an adult version of like one of the popular kids. Like I'd post shit and I get all these fucking comments and messages and like, dude, this is cool. Like people like me for some reason.
Yeah.
So like indirectly, I think that motivated me. And I would like my current like life, like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, but back then, like 19, 20, up to like 24 years old, like people would come up to me at the Arnold and take a picture with me. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys
like,
were influencing because of what you were doing.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to be influencers by doing shit.
Because it wasn't a thing. Like, like you had your people that like thought they were fucking movie stars and stuff back then.
Yeah.
But like they weren't the actual good ones. I don't want to say that like in an arrogant way, but like they would be like actual powerlifting numbers like that were recorded. They'd be like here. The ones that were up here on paper were like officially, they weren't the ones trying to like show off and make a bunch of stupid shit online.
Yes. So. Well, that's the change in influencers from now until then. Yeah. You know, because you guys were influencing people because they aspired to be in the positions that you guys were in.
Yeah.
You know, and then, I mean, you were pretty much all you guys were being authentic enough, you know, for people to understand what they needed to do to get there. I mean, you're not freely talking about PDs and shit like that because you would have been banned. Yeah. You wouldn't have had a following back then, but enough to be able to show the trials, tribulations, the injuries, you know, showing up, lifting the weights and doing those and being decent people for the most part.
Because back then, that's all that really mattered to people was how to get better at the sport. Like now people care about like making their reels all spinny and shit. And like, you know what you see on social media. Like people care about that more like the presentation of things. Like sometimes I really wonder to myself, like how many of these fucking people would still try hard in the sport if they couldn't post it on Instagram? It's a lot, man.
A lot would not. Right. And I think that for some people, it actually changes their training. You know, they're overreaching just because they want that video.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not even just like your people hitting the big numbers. It's just like your like average new intermediate beginner powerlifter. Like they just love to post shit.
Yeah.
All the time. And those are the people where I'm like, man, like if we just took that phone away and like social media for 6 months, how many times would they show up to the gym and touch a barbell? Like seriously touch a barbell? Like will they still compete in the meets they compete at?
It's a good question.
Yeah. And I really like, I'm pretty confident I say like a lot of them would stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, depending on the environment they're in, maybe some of them will stay because some of these strength gyms, they have built the community where like such as mine, like they're all like friends. Like, yeah, sure. There are certain groups of friends, whatever. Like some people might not like each other, but they're not dicks to each other. but they all support each other. So like, at least they have somewhere to go to do something away from their real life.
Yeah.
Cause let's be real. Like a lot of people, like they don't like their real life that much. That's why they go to the fucking gym so much.
Yeah. I think the optimistic side is there's more that would continue to do it than what we think, because you know what it's like under a maximum weight.
Yeah.
You know that addiction, for lack of a better way to, it is a fucking addiction.
It's like your t-shirt.
Yeah. And that's not going to fucking go away if the phone's not there.
Yeah.
They're still going to quest, you know, to be able to do that and to get better and better and better.
But are they going to try as hard? Because that end result's not showing off to their friends.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
It's weird.
Right? Because
we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, the pushback could be maybe they're trying too hard now.
Yeah.
Which is actually hurting their progress,
term,
you know, where getting back on track here with when you were on that, trying to figure all that gray area out, right? So you have all the work, I don't really want to say it's stress, work hours that are in there. And at what point did you start looking deeper into the nutritional side, sleep side, the recovery aspect of all this? Because fact is, when you start when you're 17, as we said earlier, you can get away with a lot of shit. And sometimes I even question if it would even matter if they're 17 to 22, if they even did and all that other stuff right. I don't know if it's going to make any net positive at all.
I try to push it on those kids just so like it's a long-term thing.
Yeah.
But like, because one day they're going to hit that point.
Yeah.
Like, to myself, to answer your question, probably would be 2020. Yeah, I would say 2020 is when I was like, I have to fix, because I had more freedom, right? Like, like we talked about. I was like, I have to fix this shit. I've invested like my whole life into this like sport of powerlifting, and I'm just not getting any better. Like I'm very self-aware. Like I was getting worse. And so I looked at, so I kind of like zoomed out like on the future, like the next few years. And I did those, like I said, in 2017, we did those meets where I kind of just got my feet wet again. Just didn't hit any PRs, but I knew it. Like I wasn't taking like EDs. I was like, whatever. And then 2018 started to ramp up again, got hurt my back in 2019. And that's when I was starting to feel like I was hitting my stride again. It wasn't like a major back injury like I had in 2015, but it was enough to put me out for a couple months. And then I was like, all right, let's get ready for, it was called, no, I waited all the way until that surge meet they put on in Chicago. Cause I was like, I need some time. I need to get my life back, like consistent with things after they like get kind of like we spoke about. I'm kind of rambling right now, but those lifestyle factors that I was neglecting, I was still in that gym world on and off because of COVID. And I was like, I want to get this going, get my training going, and then go into that surge meet October 2020 and do good again. And I did. I mean, it wasn't like the best meet I had, but like I dropped a weight class, like took the time, stripped off like a lot of unnecessary body fat. So it was first meet at 220. Since that meet I did in 2015, squatted 788. That's where my bench started to deteriorate from the 480s or whatever. So I hit like 429. I went for two for three on my deadlift and missed a PR attempt on my deadlift. Like in hindsight, for that stage of my life and what I was like trying to come back from, it was a good meet. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm back. Like I think I'm in the right headspace. I'm about to open my gym. Cause like when I was in the hotel for that surge meet, I was getting ready to open my gym when I came back the next week. I was like, things are going to be good. Like it's going to run itself. And it didn't, but it did. But it did.
You thought
enough,
it would.
It did good enough where I could still devote my time to training and not have to worry about all this other shit. Like, cause I had a lot of support. Like the business came from the other gym, the people that knew me. So I was able to pay my bills pretty quick. And then I started getting ready for this. You've heard it from other lifters, Battle of the Bay in Florida. So I think that was a little too soon, tweaked a hamstring, could have done the meet, but I was like, all right, well, in the back of my mind, I wanted that 220 squat record again. I was at 788. It was at 821. And the goal is to do it in September 2021. I was like, let's look at the long term. I'm not going to do this meet. Funny story. I did that meet. because I was judging that weekend and he didn't need me the next day. And I was like, hey, like, I haven't really trained, but can I just jump in for fun, just see what I can do? And I did whatever I did. And then I started training again after that. And then that's where I finally excelled again and hit that record for what, like 2 minutes, because Joe took it right back after I hit it, but I still hit the goal of doing it. Like, to put it in perspective, my biggest squat was 804 at 242 in 2016. And then in 2021, I haven't touched anything above 760, 770 since then. And then at Surge, I hit 788, and then I went right to 826 for like an all-time PR to lower weight class, world record, all that cool stuff. That really got my confidence back. And that's when I started focusing harder on the things I was not able to or was choosing not to do back when that commercial gym, like we talked about. Yeah. And even though it didn't go good all the time, I was still there mentally and like at least trying. You know what I mean? Like,
let's throw up that second world record squat.
Yeah. Like, this was honestly my favorite part, like, of lifting.
Well, there's a good story with that too.
Yeah. Because,
well, depending on which person you're speaking to.
Yeah. Because it's like, let me put it.
No, not that one. The other one.
Because really, looking from the outside looking in, like, this is a big number, 826. Like, I haven't touched 800 in years, and I just jumped 40 pounds and did it.
All right. So before you go on, so that was 826.
Yeah.
So you didn't squat anything close to that in training at all?
785.
785. Okay. What told you inside that was a capable jump?
I fucking said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
Like, when though? When? Like at that meet, or
honestly, the day before.
So what did you think you were going to do? Like, what did you plan to kind of end up at?
So I planned on taking 782 for a second, and I never really put it out there to like anyone that I was like, I really want this record, because I was so, maybe it was an insecurity. I was like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Like, I told Shane and like some of the people, like, this is kind of what I want to do if it's there. The day before, my friend Alexis, training partner friend, she was there helping out, just watching the meet. And she's helping me cook my food in my hotel room. And she said, what's the plan for tomorrow? And I was like, I kind of gave her the runaround. I was like, well, if it's there. And she's like, so like, what do you actually want to do? And I was like, all right, I'm going to load 826. If 782 moves well, my second, we're going to load it and I'm going to hit it. Like, it was the first time I said it out loud, like, to confidently believe in it. And I don't know what it was, where like, I just told myself I was going to do it, and I did it. And that really led to that whole confidence boost that I felt like I was lacking for the years prior, like moving forward.
Right. So was that your second?
That was my third.
That was your third.
Yeah.
Right. So then how did that day play out?
So Joe took it back right after. I tried to take it back on a fourth, but it just wasn't there. But like, yeah, that sucks, but I still hit it. And that took years.
Yeah.
And my first deadlift PR since 2016 that day. And the bench, I think I did like 413 because what we talked about. So I told her 1945, which was 6 pounds underneath my best, but at 30 less pounds body weight. So that was like a win.
So going into this one, you still were you, or were you not hyper focused on sleep, nutrition, or was it after this one?
This one, I would say I had more of like a 80-20 approach, right? Like, yeah, I would say like I just did well enough, but like I was obsessed with like getting this. So if you look back at my first record, when I did the 785, it was one of those things where, so I did Raw Unity in 2015, it was February. Training was so bad for that, very bad, like external stressors, like Chad actually said to me one day, he's like, man, I got to go hide my guns because you're going to shoot yourself. And I was like, yeah. So I had like a 6-for-9 meet, and I was just like sitting out there in like the lobby they had. And I was like, fuck, like, because I was not experiencing that often. Like, I had 2 kind of bad meets in that time frame. I was like, I need to set like an unreasonable goal to like push myself for. So I was like, I'm going to drop to 220 and break Dan Green's squat record. And like Dan Green's Dan Green. Everyone. So I was like, I'm going to do that. No one in their right mind would expect that to actually happen. Like, I squatted 727 at that meet. at 242. 4 months later, I was wanting to squat 280 or 785 at 220. But like, I think my mind just shifted so hard. Like, this is what I have to do, that like, I just did it. Like, I know like that sounds stupid. Like, you can't just want to do something and do it. You have to put the work in, things have to line up. But I think it showed like for the longest time I was capable for a lot. But like at that time frame, I was just letting those like other stressors get in the way and just doing little lackadaisical things. It was like a wake up call. And then kind of the same thing here. I was like, I fucking have to do this. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
So then after that, I mean, so what was your mindset when you left that day? Because
I was happy.
yeah, okay.
I was like, I'm healthy. Like, and I felt good for the first time in like years. I left that meet and I was like, I'm back. Right. So like, I wasn't. So I signed up for the Ghost Clash 2. I actually had a perfect training cycle into it. Like, it started late because I got very sick after that. I don't know what it was. Like, I don't think it was, like, people say it was COVID, but it lasted like 6 weeks. And I lost like 30 pounds almost, 25 pounds. Couldn't train, it was just terrible. Like, it's the first time I ever checked myself into the ER. And I just could not get right. So I could not train. And I got back into it, started to build up a little bit, started training for the meet, barely squatted 600. But after like the 8 or 7 week out mark, things went perfect. Like, I squatted 804 in the gym. Things were awesome. And I got to the meet and I kind of just didn't do well. I don't really blame it on anything. I think it was just one of those, like, not the meet I expected stories. And then after that, what did I do?
My question, do you think you needed that 804 if all you did before that one there was 780 or something?
So I did the math. It was basically just about the amount of weight that I needed to do. So I did 785, 826. That was like 40 pounds difference. I needed 838 at this meet. So no, I guess I could have done a little less.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's what it just cost me.
Yeah, it's 5 pounds. Give or
Yeah.
take, right?
Yeah. So like, I just think I had a bad or poor performance. Like I said earlier about this meet, the American Pro, like, it's easy to blame the weight cut, but in hindsight, probably blame the weight cut a little bit because I did a little differently. I just tried to sweat it all out the night before, and that fucking cooked me. Like, it was pretty, like, I went in there, my legs were like tired, and I've never felt that before, but I still thought I was going to get it. But yeah.
With the lifestyle factors, sleep, nutrition, those things, if you're not training with intent, you know, to break a world record or a certain total or whatever it is it harder for you to maintain those things than when you do have that training as that base?
Oh yeah, this is going to be the ultimate test, like with this pec tear, right? I was just thinking about that. Like, I'm more of like I need like a big goal to keep myself on track with everything, I feel like, mentally, which isn't a great trait. Like, I think your best people can just do this year round in like kind of like a robotic mode. Me, I kind of need something ridiculous to like go after. But when I really think about it, coming back from a pec tear, my first surgery, the shittiest meet I've ever done, like within a year's time is kind of like the time frame I'm giving myself. From a year and a half. Like, I have to do it. So it's just for something else. So before,
that's still
like,
a big thing. I mean, you can stick a number on there. It doesn't need to be your all-time best, but it can be your best over the past 5 years.
Yeah. Because I really think the way I'm driven too mentally is when like people like you and I, or anyone that sits at this table, we can say all this outlandish shit and they're like, okay, that's like a little out there, but like he could probably do it. Like, if the things line up, it goes well. But like to the outside people, they're like, oh, he's fucking crazy. Like, never going to do it again. And this isn't like one of those, like, I'm going to show you stories, but like the fact that like, you know, people are expecting it probably not to go that well, even though they're rooting for you, that kind of motivates me a little bit. Like, as weird as that is.
I can say for myself, even still training related, if I don't have something anchored each year that's a little audacious, I don't know if I'd even train.
100%. Like, everyone says like the gym is my therapy, the gym is my outlet. I'm like, dude, like the gym fucking stresses me out. Like, because I set these goals for myself and that's what I need to do. Like, if I didn't compete or have any like quantifiable goals to go after, I don't think I could go to the gym and train. Because like what do we do after every meet? I'm going to take a month off from the barbell, do some bodybuilding, let my body heal. That's boring as shit. I go in, do like 2 sets of lat pull downs. I'm like, I'll just wait a fucking month and get underneath the bar. Like,
I'll try training like a bodybuilder for 6 months. You drive yourself fucking insane.
yeah, but that's different. So like training like a bodybuilder with intent, probably going to be fun.
Well,
right?
yeah, if there's the intent
But
to
if
get
it's
you
like,
ready.
if I'm going to take some time off and just do some accessory shit, like how do you, like, what is that doing for someone mentally? I mean,
how do you do that then? Because you're gonna have to do that now.
That's going to be the test. But the thing is, there's an end goal. Like I need to be able to powerlift again. So by doing this, like I have to do it to get underneath the bar. Like I want to get underneath and to hit the numbers I want to hit before I hang it up and all that stuff.
So what's the, you've already mapped this out. I know it, right?
Yeah,
so,
100%.
there's a lot of question marks in regard to, the PEC therapy, right? But so that's day by day, week by week. You already know that, but you already know what you're going to do for the other lifts while this is healing.
Yeah.
So how are you laying out this next quarter, so now until end of Q1,
so
training wise?
I'm not doing that myself. Seth Albersworth is going to do it for me. So I actually plan on just kind of working with him after this American Pro, just because he helped me with that knee issue I talked about. So this training cycle went so well for a variety of factors. Like we talked about, it was like the best one I've had in years, but he helped me with my knee and my back. And every training cycle prior for years, I'd have to sit out a squat session or two because either my knee or back. I'd have to do that once. So like we got ahead of the game and he just gave me like a rehab program, communicated with me whenever I needed it. And like, it was such a good investment. Like it's crazy to me how, so I was like, okay, if he helped me do that, like there's not one time getting ready for this meet where I was crippled in bed. And that's guaranteed 1 to 3 times in a 12-week like meet prep.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, what can we do moving forward? Like coach everything. Let's keep on top of this rehab, whatever. And then tore the pec, which is funny because he just did it and he's rehabbing it himself and he just got surgery. So like the irony was there. And
well, he's a month ahead too.
He's a month ahead. But
yeah.
His was a lot worse, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know particularly what happened, but.
Did he show you that video where it was like the blood was squirting out of his incision?
I don't want to fucking watch
that. Oh, and that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
No, I watched the YouTube videos of pec surgeries, which is fucking stupid. I should have done that. But yeah, so I'm kind of just putting it in his hands. But I have a good idea of things, like a lot of single arm work, probably use a safety squat bar, whatever I can do. Can't really, obviously not going to get underneath the bar for a while. So honestly, whatever he tells me to do, and I'm sure that I'll be able to communicate things with him and bounce ideas, and I'm looking forward to it. Because I think if I try to do this myself and I wrote all this shit out, like, all right, in 3 weeks, we're going to load up the bar 400 with a safety squat bar or something like that for like reps. Like I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's probably not going to put something like that.
So are you going to push your health markers up?
Yeah. So I just got my blood work. Actually, this is the best post-meet blood work I've had in, I want to say ever. It's not great. Like it's everything that would be off you'd expect, but yeah, that's the next goal. And what's cool about that is I'm going to clean it up in theory, and they're going to stay clean for a while. This is forcing me to come off of pretty much all PEDs for a while, except for like the quote unquote TRT. I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You get it. But yeah, so I'll be in normal ranges and I'll have the normal blood work in theory, normal hormones. And I'll probably have to ride that with no negotiation for probably like 8 months. So I don't know if that means when I go back on, I'll have a better effect. So we'll see. It's been a long time since I could say I did that.
Going back to the gym when you started that, so you went from your garage to the gym, and then was double what you wanted.
Yeah.
Right. Then fortunately you had a client base, to be able to get you kind of at break even there.
Yep.
What things have been positives that you didn't expect from opening a gym?
Just the relationships I grew with people or formed with people. Like I've met so many new people, so many new friends. Honestly, it's really not about me, like the whole gym itself. Like how I make my living isn't the gym, it's the training people, all that stuff. But like just seeing the people come in and make friends themselves, become a part of the sport and love it, and just seeing how like it's shifted a lot of their attitudes and just gives them like, I guess, purpose, makes me feel good about myself. Not many things make me feel good about myself. It's just not really who I am. But like even people that have been like lifting weights their whole life, like now they're into powerlifting and they love it. Like they look forward to training. They come in, they have something to do every day. They want to do it. The meets come. Like I'm sure we're talking about, I direct meets, and just seeing the environment that's been created because of those people. Like I get a lot of credit for it, but it's not me. I just formed it. They form the relationships. They bring the environment. They bring the attitude. They feed off of each other. And like, it's just awesome to see. Like that's the biggest positive. Like every meet I hold, stress is shit. But then once it starts to go, I always find myself like looking around and be like, holy shit, like this is all worth it. Like as corny as that is, like just seeing everyone succeed and have something.
What about the negatives?
I mean, it's funny. A lot of people that talk about owning like gyms, like don't fucking do it. Like you have to clean toilets and stuff. Like it's really not that bad. Like I have multiple people at my gym that help out with things like that, like restock the paper towels. My mom goes to my gym, so she's a teacher. If she finishes her workout before going to school, like she'll wipe shit down for me. She'll clean the toilets if needed. She does the floors sometimes, a lot of the time. I have a member that has a floor cleaning business, so he comes in the middle of the night, like once every 2 or 3 weeks, does the floors. So like that saves me time and expenses. And to me, that's really cool because it's not just the whole, yeah, I'm saving money because these people are helping. They care about the place that much that they're willing to go like do that.
Yeah.
Like they'll go pick up toilet paper for me. Like if I'm out of town, like right now, and let's say I forgot my order of toilet paper doesn't come in, they'll go to Publix and be like, hey, I got you some until your shipment comes in. Which literally just happened. Yeah. But like back to the negatives, like the stress is, so the only negative is recently where it's funny. I was going to come on this podcast and I was going to be like, hey, my gym just expanded. So like that fell through last minute and I got stuck at where I'm at and they knew I was fucked because I have nowhere to go. So they raised my rent substantially, like probably 70%, which is huge for a little gym like me.
Yeah.
Like it's to the point where like, I'm going to have to send out that email, but hey, everyone, I really apologize. I want to up your membership rate by $5. Like, I'll explain why. If you can't afford this financially, that's fine. No ill will. But I feel like these people have seen what we've done with the place and how I constantly buy new equipment, replace broken stuff. Like these gyms down the street where you're paying your cheap fee to go, it's just broken for years. Like that gym I worked at, it's open under 3 different types of management. They still have a broken mirror from 2019. And they make, I don't know how much money they make, but thousands of members at $25 to $40 a pop. Like, fix your shit.
Do you have a cap on the number of members?
No. I thought about doing that, but the thing is, it's so inconsistent on when people come in, where like, if I have my nighttime crew, it's pretty busy Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Saturday morning's packed, but I can't cap it because what if someone wants to come in that usually trains at my dead time at 2 p.m. Like I can't give that up.
Yeah.
So I was in the position to expand. I found a good place and the tenant in that place was not expected to resign their lease. So at 5 p.m. I was about to be contact my current landlord like, hey, dude, I'm moving on. 3:45 or so, I get an email or a text message from the realtor lady. And she's like, hey, they just signed. I'm sorry. I was like, fuck. So I'm like, hey guys, I'm staying. And like, all right, well, it's going to be this much. And I'm like, fuck. So that's been the only negative. So it's more of like a financial thing.
How do you process that? Because the way that I think you process that, just based upon speaking to you and listening to you on a couple other podcasts, is you're pissed for like, if you're even pissed, you're upset for like an hour, if that.
That's me.
Right. And then it's like, okay, we're going to fix this.
Yeah. Because that's all I can do.
Yes.
Just like anything else in life, like you can't, if something pisses you off, you can't just let it like marinate, because one, whatever pissed you off, even if it's a person, it's not personal. Like no one actually says, oh, this person sucks, so I'm gonna make them feel like shit. Chances are, like, that person that upset you probably thought they were doing the right thing, or was just doing something for themselves, which had nothing to do with said person. Like, just can't let things.
Well, it doesn't
over.
fix
It doesn't
anything
fix it,
either.
no. It's just like from a personal standpoint, like, you need to get better at, I'm assuming, communication's a thing, right? If someone's pissing you off, communicate, make it better. In this instance, there's really no communicating, but there's something you have to do to make it better. So in my case, it's, I have to increase revenue a little bit. I have to get better at what I'm not doing. Maybe if that means I keep the gym a little cleaner, or maybe I have to spend that first $1,000 on a little bit of marketing on Facebook, invest in an actual website, ask my members for referrals, do anything. Like, there's always an answer.
Yeah.
You just have to find it. And is it always gonna be right the first time? Probably not. But the way I see it, it's a tough time. I'm in it for the long haul. I want to, and I'm going to expand my gym. So whatever I learn from this is going to carry over to that, which is going to carry over to that.
Yeah.
So,
which is essentially training.
Everything's training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's training. Like we say it all the time, but like, training is I guess there's probably a lot of things that we don't know about that are like life, but for us it's training. And many people have said it, but it's the same thing. You have to make a plan. You have to stick to it. You succeed or you fail. Even if you make the perfect plan, you stick to everything, you're going to fail a lot. And because you're not, what's the word? Not deserved, not like you're not promised anything, I guess.
Yes.
So you do what it takes. Doesn't work. You either do it again because it didn't work for whatever reason and it's going to work next time, or you just be very honest with yourself and see what didn't work and then fix that aspect, and hopefully it works next time.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has a time frame on things, I feel like, and I'm guilty of it as well. And some things you have to put a time frame on. Like, for me, the gym is on a time frame because the leases expire in certain years. You gotta have the money by a certain time. But that just should make you more aggressive and work like a little harder, not even harder, just smarter. Because, like, do you agree with that?
No, 100%. I mean, because if there's a time frame, say you got 3 years before the lease is renewed or whatever it is, you kind of know where you need to be each year moving forward. Yeah. And then each quarter.
So the positive I'm taking from this non-expansion thing, right? My rent went up substantially for 3,500 square foot. The place I was going to go into was about the same price for 5,800 square foot. So I'm paying the same amount of money now, but now I'm going to have to figure out how to exceed that in a smaller place. So when I do move to the bigger place, the gym is thriving a little more.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, I don't expect, at least in the near future, to make my own living from the gym. The gym for me is for me and for other people. I know that might not be the smartest thing, but I like that other people love the gym and they have a place to go to, and I always want it better for them, which I feel like will pay dividends to other things that come back to me.
Yeah. Other training centers, personal training centers, sport training centers will see that kind of as the revenue per square foot. You know, so they want to maximize the revenue per square foot, you know, until they can't, you know, and that's usually more than what they think it is. Yeah. You know, then they can, you know, move into that next place and, you know, kind of go that route.
And of course, people are going to say, well, you have to put money into the other gym to make it succeed. Like, I don't care, because it's what I like to do. Like, I love the gym. Like, this is, like, I keep doing this, but this place is fucking cool. I would spend all the money I could to be able to walk into a place like this or a place like I want every day, because that's my life. The fact that I get to go in a building, no matter what type of building it is, do what I want to do, be around people I want to be around. Like, I feel like that's winning to me. Like,
well, there's a process there too, though, because you have from going into there and just expanding the equipment and the stuff that you've added where you are now. Yeah. How much, and how do you determine how much to put back in? Exactly. Two things can happen. Some people busted mirror for years, put nothing back in. Other people will put way too much back in.
You have to find that fine line.
Yeah. Like, so how do you walk that line?
So for me, patience. So like when it comes to equipment, like I'll look for sales. I'll look for like Facebook Marketplace. As cool as it looks at like some of these gyms where they advertise like different companies where it's all outfitted, like some machines are good, some aren't. So for my machines, I like to have what people like. So I'll wait until that one chest press machine comes up for sale or whatever, and I'll replace an old one, sell that, make a little money. The money I put into that new one's reduced because I sold the old piece. So it's just replacing equipment, slowly putting money towards equipment. If I make enough money from a meet that I hold, I will put that into the gym. Like I don't pay myself for that stuff. Maybe like $1,000 or something. But yeah, that's it. I use the money I make, put it in different accounts. This is for this is for that. And then it's not overreaching. Sometimes it is. Like I didn't need to buy brand new chrome kilo plates. I had to they look cool. So I fucking yeah. But little things like that I'll do sometimes, which I probably shouldn't. But overall, I feel like I make the right, like intelligent choices where I'm not trying to go all in on something before it could even pay off, if it even pays off.
Yeah, but it sounds to me like you know what's going to pay off and what's not.
Yeah.
But you still will treat yourself on the things that you really like, the chrome plates.
Yeah, like I said, because it's me. It's my place.
Yeah.
What the fuck I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, within guide rails, right?
Reason,
because that's where people can get in trouble. And
like, I'll just say the Ghost brand, right? Like their shit was very expensive. And everyone like wanted it because it was a new flashy thing. It's too much money back then. Like I know they're not around anymore, but like
maybe that's why.
Yeah, I know it's weird saying that with you because it's elite. But like the thing is, when I actually looked at it, equipment's great, whatever. In a way, it's all the same. Like I couldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna pay this much more money to have a brand in here because I could get something much cheaper. And these guys aren't gonna know.
Yeah. Well, is it gonna pull people in? Is the question.
Yeah. Like I'm excited after this to look at like your equipment because I want to have a good idea of what to plan for when I do expand. Like I know I already love your benches, your competition benches, your Power Racks. They're great. I don't really have a real one. I have like a cheap made one. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I've already planned this out. Like, yeah.
I've always, when it comes to the equipment aspect and all that is, you know, I've always liked quality first, but let's just set that aside because you can do what you're doing. Get what's going to work, you know, that it's going to hold up long enough to be able to replace. But then from the branding part of that, I push people into your place should eventually look like a university or a high school that's branded all the equipment for their team, for their school. So when they walk in, that's what they see. Is your name, colors, you know, same colors, your name, all that, your name's on the rack, the club's name's on the rack, you know, because in a way you're kind of recruiting, not as much as a D1 university, right?
No, I understand.
But the whole reason behind a lot of what they do there is they want the new recruits to walk in and be like, holy fuck. Right. They're not walking in. Yeah. They're not walking in and saying, holy fuck, this is Powerlift or this is Sornax or this is, they're not saying that. They're seeing, bam, you know, that's the brand. That's what it is. And, you know, that's the scalability from that side because it's the branding of that. Because every video that's shot, every image that's shot, every picture that's shot,
they see what's in the background.
They're going to see your brand. You know, and
so like at my gym, it used to be a banner that just said, don't be a pussy. And that was behind the monolith for the longer, it got moved, but it's still posted out. Like people post on their stories and all the time. Behind the deadlift platform, you can always see our like leaderboard. Like I know that's not a banner, but like it says like some want it, some don't, or some shit above it. And everyone just stares at that board. And it's always in the background when people are deadlifting.
Yes.
And then
well, that will distinguish you, you know, it's the West Side board distinguished them, you know, it wasn't, I don't know how many people really look at the numbers on the board. They just see the board.
Dude, at my gym, it's funny. Like if I took that board down, some of these people wouldn't know what to do. Like a lot of these people do my meets, some will do other meets, but like I go to these people like every day. I'm like, dude, you know, it hasn't changed. Like the meet that we're holding is in 4 months. Like it's not changing. But someone's always just staring at it. Like, oh.
Yeah, when I say that, I'm speaking if it's in the background of an image and shit like that. No, in the gym, no, they're fucking looking at it.
All the time.
Yeah, and that motivates them.
Oh, yeah. I think the board, I know this is getting a little off topic, is probably the best thing you can have in like a strength-based gym or any gym. So.
Do you only, in yours, is it all powerlifting?
Squat, bench, deadlift total.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have all the weight classes, male, female. Has to be done at a meet.
Your members, when they come in, are they lifters or are they being converted? There's a percentage. So
now lifters usually in the beginning, they were, let's just use the females, right? So I come from the other gym. A lot of them took like the whole group exercise boot camp class. I taught a lot of those. I always thought it was stupid, but I knew like the value for that was I'm going to go home and get tired. Or I'm going to go to the gym, get tired, and go home, feel like I had a good workout. Honestly, make like zero real progress in anything, but just spinning your wheels. So they came to my gym and I'm like, they're not going to like this shit. So like, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, whatever. And then I hold a meet in June. Like 8 girls or so, 8 to 10 decided to do it because they started liking the implementation of the barbell. They had a great time. The environment was good. They're around, so I said about 10 girls. There were around 40 other female actual powerlifters. They loved it. And then they got converted. Then all of a sudden, the next meet, the group picture at the end grows to like 16. And then now it's like a whole fucking long ways picture.
Yeah.
And that really came from like an organic growth of they saw the environment that these girls have at these meets in the gym and how like they can actually be strong. Like you have a 40-year-old woman that's never touched a barbell in her life figuring out she can deadlift 250 pounds in like 6 months, and they love that. So I didn't think it was going to work out that way. I'm really glad it did from more of like a personal fulfillment standpoint and business standpoint, because they're a member, they probably pay for coaching, they'll probably sign up for my meet. If their husband owns a business, they're going to sponsor the meet, like get the meet stuff later. But yeah, and for the men, the core of them, they were gym rats that ended up training like powerlifters, and a lot of them just fell in love with it. But not many of them just started out as nothing. They had some sort of exercise experience.
Yeah. That brings me to throw his first squat record up real quick. That one. So this is the first all-time world record, right?
Yes.
And what are you there, like 308? What are you, 240? What's your weight there?
220.
220.
Yeah. 308. Fuck.
I'm just looking at the head.
Yeah, that's around the time I experienced.
All right, pause it real quick. Now, where was this at?
Fort Myers, Florida. So ballroom and the Bell Tower Plaza Hotel.
Okay.
Very oddly specific.
All right. Now this is your third?
Yes.
All right. So after that, what did you feel?
I was really happy.
Well, no shit.
Really happy. I felt nowhere near the second one. I was so confident I was going to get that. Like in my head, I did it already. So like I walked off. I was like, okay, it's done. That's it. Like probably not the answer you're expecting.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah.
I felt accomplished and I had that rush of adrenaline because I've never done anything like I said before, I've never been like good at anything. And I got pretty good at powerlifting. And then I guess number wise, for a period of time, I had the best squat in the world at 220.
Yeah.
So like that was really cool to know, but it just motivated me for more. Like
how was that different than say the first time you squatted 500 pounds or 600 pounds?
A lot of people have done 500 or 600 pounds.
Well, I know that, but internally.
Oh, internally? It's about the same. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not really one of those people that get super like excited about it, except for that one time I spoke about. Like,
all right. So now with the second one, why was that different?
Because I had to face a lot of like adversity going into it, like through the years. Like, I don't know if adversity is the word, ups and downs, just a bunch of different waves. When that first one hit, it was just like a straight shot with like a little bit of shittiness. Like before the meet, like we talked about the meet prior, but I was on a roll.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was, I don't want to say it was easy, but I feel like I made it to higher numbers faster than most would. At least to a certain point, like before I went the untested route. And then it actually slowed down a little bit, but like compared to other lifters, But yeah,
All right. So
I guess I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
well, where I'm kind of getting at is because you run meets, right? And you can have somebody lift in one of your meets that squats, if I gotta convert the fucking kilos, 3 reds, right? Whatever that 385, right? Then that's a big fucking deal, right? For them, if it's the first time they've ever done that, right? And that could also be, you know, a member of yours that has just gone through hell, you know, just in their own personal life and all this, or they've never done anything before athletically or whatnot.
And I can think of many right now.
And so those PRs are kind of the same as those PRs, right? But what I think happens a lot of times, and I'd love your perspective on this, is, you know, top lifters end up in a bubble. Right, because they're only other around top lifters. Now you run meets, you have a gym, so you can see both perspectives here.
I would say I'm not too much in that bubble.
Yeah, so they lose sight of that, and they get caught up in all-time world records, you know, powerlifting drama, you know, and all this other kind of shit, and they lose the sight of what the sport really is.
Yeah,
because what the sport really is would be the people that you were speaking about earlier, you know, at your gym that do their first meet, or it could be their 5th meet, and they had to overcome a lot just to be able to do that.
I think I know what you're saying. So we kind of all fit in the same category, but with just different outcomes of numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where I tell a lot of the top lifters that I find in that bubble, go to a local meet, right? And just learn the stories of just a few of the people that you don't know that aren't the greatest lifters, and watch, you know, their reaction,
so happy,
you know, after they do certain things, because then you're kind of forced to see what the sport really is.
Yeah, we could really touch on this. I mean, do you want to talk about the meets?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the first meet, Showcase Super Classic, right? That's my annual June meet. That first time I put a meet on, I didn't know what to expect. Like, I wanted a 1-day meet, 50 lifters, hopefully make enough money to pay like rent for 1 month. I had a second day on my first day of releasing the entry form. Not because of the members of my gym, but I guess it was just because everyone knew me maybe in Florida, because I've been around a long time. I judge meets and been around the block there, right? So I'm like, shit, 2 meets, that's cool. And then,
so why did it sell out?
Yeah, within the first 2 hours, I had like 47 entries out of 50. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll just open up a second day. And that filled up within a week. So I had 100 lifters in less than a week. And
so when you did that at that time, did you have any idea what this meet was going to look like?
Fuck no.
Or where it was going to be?
I knew it was going to be.
Okay.
It was a CrossFit Warpath gym.
Yeah.
It was a CrossFit gym. They're called Warpath. They're in the next town over. Big open space. You know, you've seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the equipment for it. I had a good idea of how to run it because I've been judging meets for the USPA in Florida. Say that name, you get in trouble now. But whoops.
Yeah, whatever.
So anyways, so there's that. But I've been around where I was helping out meets, and the guy who runs Florida USPA, or did mostly back then, Richard Fika, who I think would actually be great on here. He always talked to me about how he did it, like business wise, to get lifters in, how certain gyms feed off of each other in the area to get to these meets, and how like his meets just huge all the time. So I had a pretty good background knowledge of just eating dinner with him like multiple times throughout the years. And we, our group, I had a bunch of people that didn't want to compete because they didn't really know what it was. They're like, oh, we'll help transport everything. And I had like Trevor and a whole bunch of people that would come to judge, spot load. I had employees lined, like employees, I can't believe I just said that, volunteers that I pay a little bit of money to help out, which I'm so grateful for them. But that's another story. And it ran pretty fucking good. 100 people. The weigh-ins were at my gym the day before the meet. And it was just very smooth. We had some, I think the hardest part was like the technology aspect, like we spoke about earlier. The TV, the display. Didn't have one in the warm-up room. The programs you got to use, because you kind of learn on the job there. Like I was up until midnight the night before trying to figure out how to use it still, because I put it off to the last minute. And it was just simple as like opening a new tab and typing.
Yeah,
shit in. I
yeah.
had no idea. Now I can just do this months in advance. But yeah, that meet as a lifter experience, I think was really good. And the reason why I say that is because the next meet I held was in December. Same outcome. Then the word got out there that it was a fun meet. More lifters from my gym signed up. And then that made it harder for other people to get into because it's not just my gym. It's all of Florida. People starting to travel from out of state. And every meet just got bigger and bigger. And the more lifters from my gym entered, it's almost like sometimes I was like, fuck, like maybe we should do like a third day, which I'm never going to do. We're like 2 platforms, which I'm never going to do. I don't like the 2 platform thing. So if I wanted to be like a little greedy financially, like get more entries, I could do that, but I don't really like the experience. But I know there's a little bit of a rant there on that, but going back to your everyday lifter making PRs, that's so much more fulfilling to me than seeing like a big lifter come and do it big. Because we can see that anywhere. We can see that these big meets that you talked about. Like, so I tried the second June meet. I was like, I'm going to put a pro day where I'm going to try and attract like the bigger lifters. Didn't fill up. I got like 30 of them. The money was pretty damn good for a local meet. Dan Bell came down, but I think he just did that because like we're friends, support. He was going for the sleeve record. And I had Miana did it. I had a lot do it, but not as many as I expected. And it was boring to me that day. Like I remember sitting there and I was like, this isn't fun. Like yesterday was way better. And then the next meet, the second December meet I put on, that was like the best one because I got a new venue. It was a high school gymnasium that we actually raised money for. So I got it for free just for that time. We raised money at a different push-pull meet like earlier in the year, $10,000. They did me a favor. And we only went there because of the hurricane. So there's that. It's a different story. But that meet was like the best one yet. I mean, besides the last one, they just keep getting better.
Yeah.
Like,
didn't you put 6 meets on the first year?
I put on, no, that was the second year.
The second year.
First year, 2021 was June and December. Second year was March, which was the charity push pull. The June meet, August, which was the junior youth kid day. The day after is the masters meet, 40 plus, and then the king and queen of the platform in December. So that's 5. So like in the August one, that was a new idea because I was like, I think it'd be cool to have like a lot of kids do it. A lot of teenagers in there come from different high schools, try to raise money for their respective schools. That was a hit. And the second day was the Masters Day. And you'll probably appreciate this because like you've been around like all the Masters bitch. Like there's no money for us. How are we going to compete with these young guys? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, motherfuckers. Like stop sending me these bitchy emails that like you're losing to kids. So I'm going to put a lot of money up. Like I think I gave out $5,000 and I had like 30 lifters show up. Like if that, it was the slowest day I've had. They didn't come out. And I did it for a federation. I'm with the RPS. So there's a lot of vacant Florida records. If you set a record, you get $25. If you break an all-time world record in your master's division, like I narrowed it down for him, I think it was like 500. So it added up pretty damn quick.
Did you look and see how many were just vacant?
A lot. You know how many $25 fucking PayPals I had to send out? But the thing is, that was my most unsuccessful meet in terms of turnout. And those are the people that bitch at me the most for not giving money.
Well, isn't that how things always are, though?
Yeah.
Usually the people that bitch the most usually are not the ones you want to cater to.
Yeah. And I don't want to say like bashing the masters lifters, but like if you could imagine like my inbox, my formula is this under the masters division. I should have won that. And I'm like, okay, let's just water something down. Like I get they have a point, but like you can't just water it down like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to give out, especially at the local level.
How many meets do you plan on running per year moving forward? Because 5 is a lot.
4. So this year I plan on doing a police fire type game, like police fire games. I remember Chad and Donnie, they used to always do that. So I figured that would be more of like a community type event where we raise money for whatever charity that pertains to them. I haven't gotten the details ironed out, but I really want to do that. Because I think it would get a lot of departments to come down to this area. I think it would just be good. I mean, like, because they can get those records, you know, like, whatever. And then June, my staple, the Showcase Super Classic. August, I really want to do the youth one again because that was really fun. Like we had so many high school kids come out that have never done a meet in their life and they loved it. And a lot of those kids are doing all of the meets now. Gonna try the Masters one again, even though I just bitched about it. And then the December one. So
I think the Masters one is just leaning into the people that don't bitch.
Yeah. I thought about also doing like an equipped meet, but I think that's out of my comfort zone because there's all the federations that are around, right? So the multiply lifters, they go to one. I don't want them to come because I've had them come to mine and the judging is a little more like strict.
Mm-hmm.
So they say stuff like, oh, that's raw judging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get in that debate. I don't want to get in that controversy. So I just want to like leave that alone. But I would love to see a good equipped meet have like money for it, like on a local level, because you don't see that much. But Perfect Storm does a great job of that. So I don't want to like.
There's not that many.
There's not that many.
You know, so there becomes the problem.
And the only reason why that got in my head is I had a number of equipped lifters in the area that were like, I think you should do this. Like you're doing for these meets, do it for equipped lifters. In theory, it's a good idea, but I want to avoid controversy.
Yeah.
Upsetting this group of people, you know, different areas.
Well, you're still going to run into that.
Yeah, but
either way,
but reduced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you run into that now. I mean, because that's you know, part of. Well, it's part of the social media world of powerlifting. I don't know how much it's part of the actual real world of powerlifting, which are two distinctly different things. Actually speak on that a little bit because you're in the real world of powerlifting where a lot of shit that I'll see and hear online, you never see in a warm-up room, you never see in a gym.
So we could just go back and merge this conversation with the topic of your everyday person that hits a PR under all stress. Like those people don't know what the fuck is going on.
No.
Like the strongest girls in our gym have no idea who like is talking shit on the internet. Like you'll have one of the guys that like scrolls through all day and looks at stuff and brings it up. Like, I don't know who that is. And they love the sport. Like it's so positive. And then you go to your other meets where those dramatic situations, whatever the fuck you want to call them, are a part of those people. It's like it never happened. Like you don't understand, like, where did that come from online? Like, these people are all normal too. So everything you see on social media is like this. In real life, around those people, it looks like this. Yeah. And then around people that don't even know anything, they're the happiest.
It's zero.
Yeah, it's zero.
Yeah. Well, that's a constant message I think needs to be put out there more.
Yeah, because it's a very positive sport.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It can have its like negatives to people themselves just because of like stress, injuries, or whatever the case is. But when it comes to like the community aspect, it's like one of the obviously I'm biased, but I think it's like the best thing you can do.
Yes.
Because anyone can do it. Like I've had 8-year-olds do my meets, 5-year-olds, 75, 80-year-olds. Women that come into the gym that have never touched a barbell in their life and they just want to lose like 10 pounds. They've just become obsessed with powerlifting. And that whole body image issue they have goes out the window. Like I'm not saying don't try to improve your health and your body image, but like they can go into the gym and not stress about not losing a pound that week and they can just focus on what's on the bar.
Well, they'll be embraced too, because that's just the culture.
And they get celebrated.
You know, that's the strength culture.
Yeah. Like we keep kind of going back to that everyday lifter PR. There's a girl at my gym. I'm not going to say her name, but she did that boot camp stuff at the other gym. And she'll probably listen to this to know exactly who it is, but like, the whole anxiety thing, the mental health, like she speaks about it to people, to me, like not like, oh, this is what I go through, but like people close to her know. And she did my second meet. And when I got her entry form, I was like, oh, fuck, like this is going to be weird because I know how she is. Like, she's walked out on me before when I had an exercise she didn't want to do in the other gym. And she gets very like down on herself. She did the meet. Her first squat, 150 pounds. She stumbled back, red lights. Very first, I'm like, that's the worst possible outcome. Fuck. And then she turns around. I think she went 7 for 9. Great day. Loved the experience. Ever since then, she pulls over 300 pounds now, squats 250, and her bench has gone up like probably like 30, 40 pounds. And for someone like that has these issues outside of the gym and sometimes even in the gym, to go out in front of hundreds of people and just do that and feel good about themselves, I think is the coolest thing ever.
Well, that's sport.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reminder I think people need.
Like I always think, like every time I see her in the gym, whether she's like kind of negative about herself, or I don't even want to say the word negative, like down about things if the lift is going bad, or really happy about it. Like I always think back to that first meet and then the last meet she did. And yeah, like.
Well, the other thing with everyday lifters, like we're talking about here, is all-time world record breakers and great power lifters at one point were everyday lifters.
They were.
So you don't know in any meet that you're ever watching who they're and where they'll be 10 years from now, just in the sport.
Yeah. But the challenge there is getting them to stick around for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's what they have to understand. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself in the beginning until you get to like maybe a certain part. Then you have to put that pressure on yourself if you want to get to that next like competitive level. But just have fun with it. Keep trying. Don't get like lazy with things, and you're going to keep loving the sport.
That's where messaging can be a little weird because we'll all tell them it takes way longer than you think. But you know, if I went into college knowing it was going to take 10 years, I don't know how motivated I would have been, you know, for that. So they need those low hanging benchmarks.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone about, they have a big goal and it was for my gym. I don't even know what it was, but I explained to her, I was like, you want to do this, but we have to hit these. And that's what's going to keep you going and motivated. If you're constantly wanting to do this number, it's a 400-pound deadlift. She wants to do that number. And she pulls 358 now. If you focus on 358 to 402 in a meet and that only, you're going to be pissed off every training session when your 280 feels heavy for reps or whatever number it's going to be. So get to the point where you're doubling or tripling 330. You know that 358 is a little higher. And then get to the point where you hit 358 for 2. You know that's going to be a little higher. Hit those small benchmarks and keep yourself engaged in it mentally, because I've been there. I still get there where I just look at that big number and want down the road, and I'm having shit days where 80% warm-ups feel like 100. Then you just have to zoom out and put things into perspective.
How has your training philosophy changed over the years? Because what you just said right there becomes a pivot that you may or may not have to make in the training, because you shifted to RPE base just because of the upper body, right?
Yeah, for the most part,
but on the squat, it could be a heavy squat day and you're warming up and you know for a fact all check marks are off that this is not going to work. And over time, you've had to learn how to pivot that. Younger, you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to figure it out. So how is that philosophy, just overall training philosophy for yourself?
So it depends on what's coming up. So if I have a meet, let's just say I'm 4 weeks out, supposed to hit, I'm just going to make some shit up, a heavy triple. And I want it to be between like 730 and 750. And if I hit 650 and it's pretty damn slow, I'm self-aware enough to know like, okay, let's just grind out like 690 for 3. I'm still going to get the training stimulus. I don't need to hit that number. As long as I have the mental confidence that like on a decent day it would be there and the end goal will still be there, as long as I put in the work, I can mentally do that. If I go up and try that number because I just want to be egotistical and just whatever the word is for that, having to run myself into the ground, I'll be tired as shit. My next workout's going to suffer, and then just compounds off of each other. Or if I'm a little further out, I'll just go home. Like I don't know if that's giving up or being lazy or what, but sometimes I think just leaving is the intelligent decision. And like some people are like, well, why didn't you just do some accessories and stuff? It's like, why? Like, be pissed off about how I'm feeling. If I'm a little hurt, just go home, rest, eat some food, take a nap, come back the next day, or just wait another week. You're not going to get weaker in 1 week feeling like shit. And that's a hard thing for people to understand too, especially when they're starting out. Like sometimes when I tell these lifters at my gym, like, just shut it down and go home. What the fuck are you talking about? It's okay. And like, so what do I do next week? Just do what you're supposed to do next week. And I'm pretty sure it'll be there.
So how do you navigate that with the younger lifters? Because sometimes it could just be they need to fucking not be a puss and do it. There's a balance.
Yeah. So that's tough for me. If it's the lifters that I'm around a lot in the gym, I know it. Like I can tell. But if I'm just, even if not with them the whole time at my desk, or if I'm just doing whatever with someone else and I see their warm-ups feeling a little off or looking a little off, I'll go up to them and be like, hey, like, how are you feeling today? And let's see. I test to see if they're being honest with me, and most of them are. Like, all right, so the warm start looking good. Let's make it plan B, plan C. Be honest with yourself, hit that plan B, hit that plan C if you need to. You'll be good next week. Like, and I have to do that whole reassurance thing of it's okay if you don't hit what was supposed to be on the bar today.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them trust me like that. I would say all of them do, actually. Doesn't mean they're happy with it, but I think they've gotten to the point where it's not that I know what I'm talking about, but they've had to make these pivots before at some point where they know that it's going to be okay.
With the ones that you said you just know, you know, can you verbalize how you just know? Like dig into that a little bit.
Some lifters, I can just see how the bar moves. Like even with one plate, like as weird as that sounds. Like, there's a guy, his name's Larry. He's a master's lifter, right? But he hasn't been a power lifter a long time. He's one of the ones where when we outline his training, he's also self-aware enough to know, like, he's got a shoulder issue, a back issue, whatever. When he's starting to warm up, I'm like, hey man, how you feeling? And he'll tell me right off the bat, like he'll kind of ramble about things a little bit, but we will go back to what we discussed before the training session because we know sometimes it's good. So like for him in particular, it's just how he unracks the bar, like his shoulder issue. If he gets underneath the bar and it comes up and you could just see him not be able to get that pop, you know he's in a lot of pain. Even if you can gut out the squats, sometimes it's like, why do that if you don't need to? So that's a good example. Or if we took a younger lifter who's pretty new, that does take time. Like sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. I mean, sometimes their mental attitude going into the training session, you could tell it's either nervous or like negative. So their training's reflecting that. And then if you just talk to them a little bit, like, hey, do your warm-up set again, prime your body for the heavier weight. Sometimes it goes good. So, like, I know you asked me the question, I'm not giving like an exact answer, but you know.
Well, I know.
Right
that's why I ask that,
so
right?
it's like
because
I'm repeating it.
Yeah.
Sometimes some people are like, what the fuck is he talking about? But the simple answer would be just experience of watching the same lifter over and over again. Well,
I think we'll see certain tendencies that are always there. I mean, sometimes you can tell, well, shit, even with strangers at a meet, if they're lifting, a lot of times you can tell as soon as they take it out if they're going to get it or not.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how to explain. Their face says it. You just know. And I don't know how you can tell somebody what that is unless they know what that is.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of learn that.
Yeah.
Some lifters, you just know how they walk in.
So this is actually something I wanted to, because I've heard you talk about this before, the whole online coaching thing. Like I make money online coaching. I have quite a few people that I work with. I think that if you have a lifter that's experienced in your gym that's offering to help you out, whether it's program for you, be your training partner, kind of guide you, go with that over the online coach because they're going to be able to help you on the spot more. Like I would gladly tell a lifter of mine from another state, like, hey, like I'm doing this shit on a spreadsheet for you. You text me videos, but videos aren't always reflective of how you feel and how things actually are. Like, you know how many times, like even in my in-person people at my gym, well, it looks good on video. It doesn't fucking matter how it looks on video. If it feels heavy, it doesn't feel fast. It can look great on video. You can't jump up 20 more pounds because your video told you so. Yeah. So when you're with people that are experienced and know what they're doing, and they can kind of just guide you in whatever program you're doing, that's going to pay off way more than the alternative. Yeah, that's where I would go. And that's coming from someone who, like, hey, buy my programming. Yeah, well, I mean, if somebody has, and I'll do these events where it's small groups, I'll bring out and work with them for a weekend, and there's a huge Q&A time period. And during that time period, I'm never telling them to get rid of a coach, ever. Yeah. You know, I'm telling them how to communicate better with them. But if they are around, you know, other lifters that have been around for a long time, listen to them. They don't need to actually write your program. Yeah, communicate that with your coach. Yeah, I mean, that can be done with the online coach, but let them help you make those pivot points, you know, through your training to be able to learn how to kind of auto-regulate. And if your online coach is good, like, he's not going to get pissed off at that. No, they're going to love that. Yeah. Like, I love when people tell me, like, hey, I was at the gym and someone told me I should try this. I'm like, awesome. Like, what else can he do for you? Like,
Well, yeah, unless they're
yeah.
saying just dump the entire program and you
Yeah.
got that basically structured out.
Yeah.
You know, that can be a
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah,
And-
because that is a problem when you have like 6 different people in your head about certain things. Like, if someone tells you, put your head this way, put your head this way, put your foot this way, and then your newer lifter, they're gonna be like, well, what the fuck is the answer? What do I do?
Yeah.
And you know what the right answer is. Do what feels best.
Yes.
And no one wants to hear that. Like, Seth just put out an Instagram post. It was something like, stop trying to find that perfect form or groove. Just repeat it until it just feels strong. Just keep doing it and doing it. Like, that's the answer in 99% of cases.
Mm-hmm. Well, unless it's a complete clusterfuck. But even with that, if they
Yeah.
just focused on one thing
Mm-hmm.
to fix that,
Yeah.
you know, because a lot of people don't have access to somebody that can guide their technique right from the jump.
Yeah. But over time, they build that self body awareness too, where like, hopefully they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, after a couple of years, I feel like everyone should at least have some sort of awareness of, okay, my knee hurts if my toe is pointed this way. Let's just try it this way.
Yeah.
But some, honestly, they just don't. And it kind of baffles me. But
Well, I think the ultimate goal is, you know, when we were looking at your squats there, is to get to a point where you go to a meet and if you're going to miss it's not technical.
yeah.
You know, it's straight. It sucks, right? Because
no one wants to say it's strength.
it
but a lot of times it's
sucks,
fucking
you know,
strength.
but it can be that for a lot of different reasons as well. But, you know, that's the ultimate goal there is that should be so dialed in. And I think, you know, a lot of younger lifters don't spend enough time just learning the proper squat technique for them.
Yeah.
Right. Because that can also become biased on somebody just telling them to do something a certain way.
Mhm.
And maybe that's why you squat wide.
Yeah.
You know, it just, that's how you were taught. And that's how it was greased all the way through. And reinforce what feels best for them that mechanically doesn't look like a disaster.
Yeah.
You know, knees kind of rounded all over good morning shit probably isn't going to work.
And at a certain point, like, you know, when you see a lift, like, okay, that should probably be changed. Kind of like you just said, like the knees come forward, the torso comes forward. Like, you know, you should probably make an adjustment to that. But if it's nothing drastic, they're probably good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How have you seen, since your time in the sport, this is a question I like to ask because everybody comes in at different times. How have you seen the sport evolve in your perspective?
I like it. So I feel like a lot of lifters that have been around as long as I have, or you are going to say shit like, well, back in the day, you used to just be like hardcore or whatever, the cameras, outfits or whatever. And I can see that from like a attitude perspective, but as the sport as a whole, things have to evolve to get better. Money has to be involved for things to get better. These meets that have these great production live streams, American Pro, Ghost Clash, for your friends to be able to watch you on YouTube in a clear quality, hear commentating, there's got to be money. And whether these companies that make the money give back to the sport or not, it depends on the company. But in the end, it just makes everything better. It's like people make shitty comments about the people like, oh, they're matching singlets and their socks or whatever. Well, these lifters like doing that, and they're going to keep participating in the sport that you love, and they're driving money into that sport, which allows it to continue involved from like a educational standpoint, equipment, like everything just gets better. If we just stuck to not spending money on anything and just being the meatheads that like we all want to be, we're going to be lifting in hotel ballrooms. We're going to be lifting in gyms, and it's not going to get any better. You know what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm verbalizing it correctly, but you kind of just have to accept the fact that there's going to be evolution in it. There's going to be more bullshit in it, which, like we talked about, that bullshit doesn't matter once you get to the meet, because people can say what they want on their phones, but in person, they're just normal people.
I'm not convinced that there's actually more bullshit. It's just, you can hear it now.
Because it's actually expressed.
Right. Because I could make, and you came in when it was forums. I could make the debate the bullshit was actually stronger when it was forums.
Yeah, I guess so. So I never really was on the Outlaws forum much, just because it was hard to navigate.
Well, Go Heavy was bad too, though.
You see, I wasn't around for that, or I didn't know about that at least. But yeah, I guess you're right. There's always been a whole bunch of
It's always been there. It's just,
whether it's personalities, lifting techniques, judges, conjugate versus non-conjugate, like all the weird shit that shouldn't matter.
It's always been
I
there.
guess it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just in a different platform.
Yeah. I can remember seeing, getting Powerlifting USA, and there would be a picture of somebody squat, say midway down, and then it was high.
It was high. Yeah,
right.
It's a picture.
Fucking photo. Right. And, crazy shit like that. So all that's always been there. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Issues with federations has basically been there since I came in.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be there.
And that's such a weird topic to explain to people that are new to the sport. Like, what's the difference between them? And it's like, technically nothing. I mean, the rule book's all the same. There are federations that are known to have lesser standards than others or higher standards than others. However, you can't blame the federation for that. It's the meet director, who they put in the chairs, who they put in the back, what state it is. But for the federations, for your everyday, all lifters, find what's fun, find what you enjoy, find what standard you want to lift to, I guess, however you want to put that, and just do it.
And I would say for 90% plus, that's what they do.
Exactly.
Right.
So you always,
yeah.
You talk about this a lot, and that's, and so it fits in that same category of the, you go on open powerlifting for the drug tested versus non-tested. And it's like, you look at the numbers, how many people actually take shit? It's not that many. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that.
Oh, I do that I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's many times I've said the majority of the sport's drug free, and people are like, that's bullshit. I'm like,
people get fucking pissed at that because
they do.
Is you go to these meets and you have a lifter you take two new lifters, two new intermediate, 3 to 5 years, 2 to 4 years in the sport. The girl at 2 years or guy with 2 years beats the one that's older. Oh, he's on drugs. No, I don't think the 240-pound man that does 550 is necessarily on drugs. It's like, that's not, like, it's good, it's strong, but it's not, that doesn't scream anabolics.
Well, it's still, at the end of the day, it doesn't change the person who's saying that. It doesn't change their training and how they're going to prepare for the next meet.
No, because those type of people, they'll never take self-responsibility. Those are the same people that will blame the judges, they'll blame the spotters, they'll blame the warm-up room. They all fit in that category. And I'm not trying to bash anyone, because there are a lot of people that fit there. But if these people actually took a step back and looked at themselves objectively, they could probably improve immensely as lifters.
Oh,
and have a more fun time doing it.
I'll blame them, right? Because I mean, it still comes down to their own accountability.
Yeah.
Right. If it's a meet to where the platform was not stable, well, you still decided to do that meet.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the accountability, you didn't have to do that meet. Now, I get it. Shit like that happens. But if you're lifting in a meet that's happening on, so is the person you're competing against, and the other person and the other person.
Like the weekly platform, there's someone that just went 9 for 9 with crazy PRs.
Yes.
And they did the same shit.
They adapted.
Yes, because that is important.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I did a meet in it was like a CrossFit gym in Tennessee. It's actually the meet where I hit my biggest total at. I had to do my warm-ups with a 45-pound bar with no knurling out of a rig. And that was tough.
No, there's some tough ones, man. I mean, this happens.
But everyone else had to do it. I did that meet with Pete Rubish. He talked about that meet on here. Another guy, I forgot his name, but Ati or something. He was like big time back then, big strong lifter, doctor now. John Rivas was going to do it. So we're all going to go do a meet at some freaky dink. Like, when I say Tennessee, it's not whatever. What's a big town, Tennessee? I don't fucking know. Right. It's like East Tennessee in the woods where it's like this. Like
middle of nowhere.
Dirt roads, yeah. And we all plan on doing that. We had the same conditions, and we all had a great ass time.
There was a meet that Brandon Smitley was lifting in. I don't want to call the meets out, but he was going for an all-time world squat record. And as soon as he picked it, I'll say, hold. I won't say, granted, they're still going to get a squat. But I'm not going to say down until everything's stable. The platform was so fucked. It was probably 10 seconds before everything settled in. And he missed I think he missed the first 2 before that. Just because he was going on the command. So there's ways to accommodate it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen. I'm not going to say that should be common practice, but it happens.
Yeah. Like, I'll call out a meet. I did the US Open 2018.
Yeah, that was one where the platform was fucked.
That was fucking crazy. Like, I remember I don't know if JP talked about it when he was on with you, but there's like there's a bunch of remixes of him on Instagram, like doing a dance with it, because that's how it was. It's so whippy. And that was the bar, or where they introduced the a new deadlift bar that's popular now.
Yeah.
They released their prototype on that day. I was the one with one of like the not so big deadlifts that used it, and I put it down and it broke. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, some meets, even at the higher level, they're going to have fucked up things. But guess what? Everyone still adapts. There were multiple world records that day. Larry Wheels, I think, became number 1 308 that day. Like, JP still squatted like 1,000 pounds or something like that. So strong is strong. You just have to adapt.
You have to adapt and know what that is. Let me look through my topics here. Burnout. There's one that's standing out to me. Okay. List of topics that you sent, that was on there. So I marked that one.
Burnout?
Burnout. So you just get burnout.
Oh, so I guess that kind of just goes back to what we discussed with just managing everything at once. And sometimes like you just don't want to lift. I think, I guess it would actually go with hand in hand with that topic you like to talk about, is balance, right? So some people, if they can't, so balance, like you do say all the time, is fucked up. Like I'm heavily, like I have 100% agreement with you. Sometimes it's hard for me to like verbalize it without sounding like the dick about things. But it's real. Like you have to, not you have to, if you want to be like the best at something to your own standards, that balance isn't going to be there. You have to essentially, like, again, another word you say, all in on something, or your version of all in. And if you constantly do that, year in and year out, I think that's where the burnout begins. So maybe the real balance would be knowing when to just pivot to something else to give that main priority a break, so you can keep making progress with that main priority. So like, if someone year after year is chasing a certain number, I talked about this with Brian Carroll. I remember one night, we were all drunk and shit in Atlantic City. He said, powerlifting's not fun. It's just a chase of numbers. You hit that number and you're happy about it for 5 seconds. And then what's the next number? I feel like if you're always chasing that next number without just going to the side for even if it's just 3 months, then that whole process becomes shit, which I think leads to that burnout. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see that topic.
It could inherently be built in though after a meet.
Yeah. To avoid it.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before. But here's, like myself, we talked about that. It's just so fucking boring. Like, you have to stay disciplined enough to stick to that plan. And especially now with all these intriguing meets that like just look fun, like you want to do them all, you have to be disciplined enough to not do them all. Because chances are you're not that guy that can just do a 10-week meet cycle, turn around in 3 weeks, do a 10-week meet cycle, turn around. That's when the injuries happen. That's where the regressions happen. I'm guilty of it. So,
well, you started that way. So when did you start to figure out that a couple meets a year is the most optimal?
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost when I was forced to do it. And I just felt better year round. Even though if I didn't hit the goals I wanted at that meet, I knew if I added another meet to that equation, I probably wouldn't have made it to that third meet. Like, or if I would have made it, it would have been one I shouldn't have done. Like, just not prepared. Physically and mentally. You know you're not going to make the progress. You're running your body down for future meets. There's just no point sometimes.
Well, there's, to go back to the the all-in prioritization and all those other things, that also doesn't mean be an asshole.
No, not at all.
Right? Because that some people will use that as their excuse.
Yeah, dude. Like the people that, this one bothers me, where people like blame their family on like their lack of goals. Like, oh, my wife or my husband or my kid. I'm like, you're going to blame your fucking kid and why you can't lift weights? Like, you know how many other people have kids that lift weights and are the best in the world? A lot of them. Or have like a wife or hard job or manual labor job. Like, that's just people with that mindset, I feel like, are never going to hit their full potential because their mindset is just so fucked up. They're making that excuse before it even starts.
Yeah. And there's always somebody in that situation
that's doing it. Yeah. Like, almost to pivot away from powerlifting for a second, when you go to the general population, like you'll hear, especially like women, I guess, right? They'll look at like a single mom, or not a single mom, like a stay-at-home mom. Oh, she's only fit because she stays at home and doesn't work. I'm like, okay, you fucking do that and get just as good a shape. Like, are you still going to stick to your diet plan? You're still going to work out 4 or 5 times a week? Like, people that are dedicated to whatever they want to do, they're going to make it work in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's my belief. Is it going to be as easy sometimes? No, but people are just built the way they are. And people that point at other situations and say, this is why they're there and this is why I can't do that. You could put them in a perfect situation and they're not going to.
But I don't believe it's ever easy.
Ever. No.
You know,
COVID's a perfect example. Like, I bet you a lot of these people that have attitudes like that didn't work for 3 months. And of course, someone's going to listen to, well, I worked. Like,
yeah.
But the people that didn't, do you really think that staying home from their job with just their kid, they went and like got in shape? Oh, but the gyms are closed. Fucking do push-ups on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Eat better. Like,
walk.
You got all the time in the world to cook your food now. Like, yeah. But back to powerlifting.
Well, it's the same thing though,
same
because
concept.
I mean, if there's a desire, you're going to find a way,
Mm-hmm.
but finding the way also isn't going to be as easy as what people think, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you opened your gym and it just started to kind of normalize.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got whacked with a hurricane.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, man.
you know, how was that dealing with that?
That fucking sucked. So that was, I think it was September 28th or the 30th. So I'm at home. Biggest storm we've had forever. It just sat on us. Usually hurricanes, I'm like, because I've been in Florida a while. I've been through like Charlie. They fly through, do the damage, it's gone. This one just fucking sat on us for like probably 8 to 12 hours. And in my mind, the gym's going to be fine. I'm like, okay, well, might get flooded out for a little bit, maybe some damage. Well, it blew the roof off. It somehow blew a locked door off the hinge. So it damaged all the floors, got a little moldy. Long story short, it just fucked it up. Don't have the best landlord that would have just done stuff for us. So very fortunately, like Trevor Jaffe, he started a GoFundMe, which is weird because I always thought that GoFundMe thing was weird. And it raised 20 grand about, and after fees, we kept about 17. And that helped rebuild the gym immensely. Like, did it cover it all? Definitely not. Like, I probably had to match that with my own money. Just because when you factor in like how much it takes to get someone to do it and then what it costs to do it, it's a lot.
Well, then everybody else is trying to hire those same people at that time too.
Yeah. So their fee, but I also am fortunate to have a lot of members that were willing to help, and they all worked in different fields that helped out. So just the fact the community was behind me, from powerlifting, from a financial standpoint, people that were willing to like demo the roofs and spray foam at a discounted price or whatever the case is, get the floors in for me, help paint, get it all together. Cause I'm probably the world's least handy gym owner. Like, you give me a fucking wrench, like, what do you want me to do with this? But I have enough people that could help out with that, where they just did it, no questions asked. But they also did it because they love the gym that much, which makes me feel good, that they wanted to be back ASAP too. So they spent their whole weekends with these stall mats, just drilling it in the floor, hammering the floor. You know what I mean? During times when their houses were fucked up. So it could have been a lot worse.
Well, that's a testament to kind of going back to what we were just talking about, to where, you know, those people that are all in, that are dicks, you know, don't develop relationships with other people, to where when bad shit happens, nobody's going to want to help them out.
It all comes around, man. I've definitely learned that. And it's weird to say stuff like that because it's almost like tooting my own horn. But I feel like for some reason, whatever reputation I've gotten or impact I've had with people at my gym or through my gym or anything like that has always in the end come around to help me when I needed it. And I think that's just the circle of life, no matter what area you're in, what sport, what job. I feel like as long as you're a good person, and it's weird to say I'm a good person, but like at heart, I do believe I am because I care about others a lot. It's always going to help you in the end. It might not be instant, but good shit happens to good shit, or good shit happens to good people. Bad things happen to bad people. And sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but a lot of the times it does in the end. I mean,
well, it's if you just look through your whole story, that's a reoccurring.
It is.
It's a reoccurring thing.
And it really, sometimes when I just, like, my mind goes everywhere all day. Like, I'm sure everyone's really does, but like sometimes I'll just be at my desk in my gym and I'll just look at the ceiling and see what's like, how it's spray foamed and how it used to not be. Like, how did we get there? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, this happened. a girl or lady at my gym. Her name's Karina. Her husband, she's known Chad and I for years through that thing. He came in after hours on his own time, spray foamed it, did everything for me, didn't charge me out the ass, just because we all know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that kind of plays into the support systems, which we've covered that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had great support systems my whole life, but like, let's to get away from the business aspect of it, and let's just go to my early days in lifting. I was in high school. My grandparents lived with my mom and I when I was in high school, and when I started getting into this, I started to like, I have to eat like meat and rice or whatever the case is. And I always remember how two things, like my grandma, she would make, she'd come with us to the meet, stay in the hotel, and I'd hear the microwave going, and I'd get up and there'd be like 4 Tupperware containers, like beef and rice for me throughout the day. It's a power for me. I'm not going to eat all those, but like the thought, you know, what I mean? Like, that's awesome. Like that type of support was there. She'd make all my food. I didn't know how to fucking cook yet, like whatever. And I remember my mom, she used to wake me up at like 5 a.m. because in high school we didn't wake up that early. But there would be, for a period of time when she understood like what I was trying to do, there'd be a bowl of brown rice, ground beef, and eggs just on my computer desk. When I woke up, I ate that and then I got ready. So they've always been like like my family's been awesome. And it was always like, they'd be at every meet if they could. Like I remember my grandma, she drove for like a transportation van, like people medical stuff, and she couldn't make a meet. And it was a Port Charlotte meet, which is like the next, it was like 5 minutes from my house. And she was like devastated. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. And then I remember she made it and like, it made me so happy. Like just the fact, because I saw how much it meant. Like she was so sad she couldn't go. And then she showed up and I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back at it now, like those stories, it means a lot more because like they're gone, you know? Like, so that's like a weird thing. And like, even when she had cancer, she always made sure she could be there. And same thing with my grandpa. He was like him, after my grandma died, my grandpa's health didn't do so well. Him and my mom flew to Las Vegas to watch one of those IPL meets I did. You know how hard it was for my mom to fly a guy in a fucking wheelchair across the country who like loves Las Vegas and wants to like get up and walk this slow and look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So just the fact they just did things like that, like in the moment you understand like, oh, that's awesome. But like when you look back at it, it's especially at this age, the support's always been there.
Well, you look back at it and you can conceptualize what that actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to buy the tickets. They got to go to the airport. They got
because it wasn't like now where
yeah.
Like, hey guys, like, hey ma, like, let's just go to this meet. I got it. Like it's a fucking hotel. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But back then they had to put the money into it, plan their own travel because I was still young. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just make it work. So always appreciative over that. I don't think I would have gotten to where I was without that family support system, especially at a young age, because I did all these meets when I was young. They brought me there. They paid for my hotel. They paid for my entry, and they just understood. And even though it was weird to them probably at the time before knowing like how it actually it was, it just kept me going. And then from the support system, like just being around like-minded people, I don't know how long I would have stuck around if I just was stuck in the YMCA all the time. Mm-hmm. That shit would have got boring. So
you had one of your topics was powerlifting as an identity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
yeah, because you talk about that a lot too. So I was kind of seeing like, what do you think? So you talk about, I listen to this podcast all the time, obviously. So you talk a lot about like when you're done, like what are you going to have, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I think I'm fortunate enough where even when I am done, it's going to suck, but it can always somewhat be my identity because everything in my life is around lifting, like the gym, mm-hmm. the lifters, people I help. Like shit, one day if that's just fizzles out and I'm not good at what I do anymore, like I don't know what I'm going to do. Like that's going to suck. But like now that I'm getting like older and training age, I'm assuming there's going to be a time probably in the next 5 to 8 years where like my best days are behind me. And realistically, that might even be now. Like who knows how I'm going to come back from this. In my mind, I'm going to come back from it good, but we have to look at it realistically. You never know. Like, not realistically.
Yeah. I mean, when that time comes, there's been so many, you know, ahead, mm-hmm. you know, of where you are at that you'll know
Yeah.
when the time comes, you'll know, because you understand those, like the Dave Hoff thing.
Because it's also like you have to accept, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm at the point in my life where a lot of people could just say the easy way, like, hey, you've done this, you've done that, you're still strong. Like, why keep wrecking yourself and doing all this to get like the extra pounds on the bar? Like, you have a kid, you have a gym, you have a business, just focus on that. Like, everything, you have everything, just transition into like coach mode.
Yeah. I mean, the question really isn't so much, can you keep doing it? Because you could. I mean, you could keep doing it till you're 70, but that's a different game.
Yeah. Because once you've hit certain things, it's very hard to be like, it's hard to accept that.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so that's the first decision. Is that a road you want to go or not? Some decide, my decision was no, I don't want to do that. It's, if I can't, be at that level, I don't want to be the masters guy. Nothing against that.
Yeah. No, that's
but it's my decision. I don't want to do that.
Like, I could realistically go to the whole train, be strong, maybe put up a PR here and there, maybe, and just have people, or I guess my identity would end up being like kind of powerlifter coach, right? Like slash coach slash gym owner, whatever. Like, I'm not ready for that yet, like at all. Like, if that were my life now, like if it had to be, I would not like my life. And I like everything that I just said that's besides the competing part. But this is such a big part of my life where I've set these goals for myself. I don't want to say I feel like a failure, but like I feel like I truly believe I can do what I want to do. And if I just step away from it now, I'm going to not fulfill something that I really cared about. And I feel like that sets like a terrible example.
Not really. I mean, if you understand it,
I mean, for myself.
I mean, if you wrap your head around it, the toughest thing isn't so much the not competing. The toughest thing is, the sleep, your nutrition, everything is more dialed in.
Yeah.
When you're training for something.
Exactly.
That's the tough thing. Like what became, and you don't need to think about it now because it's far into the future, but what will that anchor be?
Yeah. That's tough because if I didn't have, like we spoke about earlier, if I didn't have like a quantifiable goal, and in my case, it's always going to be powerlifting, most likely, I would eat like shit. Like, so everything else that I care about in terms of like hobby, I'm calling it a hobby. Like literally owning a gym and coaching people is like a hobby for me, even though I get paid to do it. That's how I make my living. That would suffer because my health is going to go down the drain.
Yeah.
I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be fucking feeling miserable. Cognitively, I'm going to feel like shit because I'm eating Waffle House 3 times a week instead of my beef and rice in the morning.
Yeah, but it's good when you're eating it.
Oh yeah, it is. Until you feel like shit. But you get what I'm getting at. So if I don't figure out a way to manage that, everything's going to suffer. So I'm always going to have to find something to do for myself. Yeah.
Well, that's the key thing, and you don't need to think about it now. So you just kick that can down the road. But for me, that was the hardest thing, is figuring out what that anchor is.
Yeah.
And then once I figured it out, it's all fine.
Because you've spoken about like hating the sport for a while, right? And I remember, I don't remember what year it was. I went to an XPC meet with Chad. They were all lifting. And like, I've never seen you before. And I've been to a lot of these meets where like a lot of the elite guys are lifting. I never saw you, and I always wondered why. And obviously years later, listening to you, I figured out why. But I remember seeing you at the XPC meet, and I was like, oh, it's this guy that owns EliteFTS, Dave Tate. But I remember you were like in the corner in the back, like you just gave off a very unapproachable vibe. And you didn't even go to I didn't even see you go to the warm-up room where I was. It's like you were just watching because like almost like you had to be there. And hearing you talk about hating it because of like whatever reasons, like that put it in perspective for me. And I don't want, like, it sounds weird, I don't want to be like that. Like obviously it's different for you now, but I don't want to resent it because I was either forced out of it or I just started not liking it for whatever reason.
I didn't resent it. I
feel like
I walk in the warm-up room, then it pissed me off because I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would avoid that situation. And then
I get that.
But one of those, I believe, in Brian. So we've had, I'm very close to Brian now, but there's a time I wasn't.
I was there when that was starting.
Yeah.
I didn't understand any of it.
Yeah. I mean, there was But even during that time, I wanted to see him come back,
Yeah.
so I went there to see if, because I think this is the one that you're talking about. I wanted to see if he was going to be able to do it, and fucking he almost did.
It was the meet where he decided to call it before his deadlift.
Yeah. And it was almost there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be there to see him actually do that, even though I really didn't like him at the time at all. But I knew how important that was. And it was a journey to follow to be able to see that. And almost did it. He did it later, which was cool, but almost did it. I think he just forced it, a little bit too soon.
Maybe. But he also made that decision to call it so it didn't really happen again.
Yes.
So it's almost like he didn't do what he wanted to do, but he did what he should have done, which what he should have done maybe a couple years prior.
Yeah. My perspective shifted shortly after that because, as I kind of spoke earlier, I went to a local meet.
Yeah.
Right. Then it kind of grounded me into this isn't really powerlifting. This is pro or, top level powerlifting. This is a different thing. This is powerlifting. This is where 90% plus of all lifters,
97 probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's where they're going to be. And this is fucking awesome.
It is. It's like, I can't wait for December 9th and 10th. So like the meets I put on, what I'm really happy about is it attracts a handful of top level people. And I really love that they come and support it, for whether it's like the reputation of the meets or because they're friends with me, whatever. Like, so these lifters that are, I don't want to say down here, but like down here in experience level, right? Like then you have the top guys. So they're sharing that same platform, sharing the same one. And they see how awesome these people are as not just as lifters, but as people. And it makes them feel so good. Like, it's funny to me, like everyone always says some shit about Dan Bell. It's like, oh, he's a really good guy. And like, yeah, no shit. Like, why wouldn't it be? Yeah. Like every guy likes to name drop him and be like, oh, I met him at a meet. He's a really good guy. I'm like, okay. But like at this meet coming up, I have Shane Haller, Chad Penson, Jen Rotzinger, Barbara Lee, Casey Romero. Like, these are all amazing lifters. Top 1, 2, 3, 5. Like Jen Rotzinger has been around since she was a good lifter when I did my first meet. She was like a judge or something at my first meet. Like, she's amazing. And she's going to share the platform with these girls from my gym that are just getting into it.
That's great.
Yeah. And the positive environment that I've seen happen at meets over and over again over the last decade plus is going to be happening at meets I hold. And that just makes me feel really good.
See, I liked seeing that pro-am thing started.
Like, Alex
because it's when you split, because that's kind of what happened over a period of time, is you had like normal meets and the pro meets, where as I was coming up, you still had, top lifters that would have to qualify, and for the nationals every year, and they'd go to a local, so they were around.
Yeah.
So you could see them.
Because it was like a tier system.
Yeah. And you're like, holy fuck, and then they would talk to you. Like Ed Cohn showing me how to deadlift when I'm 14 years old in a warm-up room.
I got a story too. Yeah.
Stuff like that, needs to be more ingrained in that, so people see those lifters as good people, as most are. The shitheads are not as many as people think they are.
Yeah. Like, it's funny you said Ed Cohn, even though it was a world record squat. I've never talked to the guy. He's best of all that's best of all time, whatever. After I hit that first squat, the 785, within 10 minutes, I had a Facebook message from him. Like, first time he's ever said anything to me. It was like, great squat or something like that. I was like, fuck.
He's an amazing ambassador really cool. for the sport.
Yeah, he is. And like, I've ran into him at many meets since. And not just me, just the amount of help he gives everyone is crazy. And it's even to the people that don't know who he is.
Yeah.
So and he's like an extreme example, but that's everywhere. Like, yeah, it's the beauty of the sport.
Yeah. Were there any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
I think we covered everything. I mean,
outside of Trevor stories.
Oh yeah. I mean, we could.
All right. So let's rip through these here real quick.
Well, so my story about you, it's funny. So I have a daughter. She's 4. She's funny as shit. Like, she says ridiculous things. And as I've said on this podcast a few times, I always listen to your stuff. Like, I've literally listened to every episode. And when she's in the car with me, she hears you say stuff like, fuck. And she's like, Daddy. I'm like, yeah, that guy said fuck. And I'm like, yeah, he did. And she's like, I can too. Fuck, fuck, fuck.
Oh, that's
fuck.
funny. That is
Yeah,
funny.
and that's happened many times.
That's great.
And she'll hear your voice sometimes and you're not even saying fuck. And she'll say, Daddy, that's the guy that says fuck. And it's like an excuse for her to say fuck.
That sounds like a shirt right there.
Yeah. Daddy, that guy says fuck. Yeah.
Oh my God, I got it. That's funnier than shit.
It is. Yeah. See if she heard that. She said, Daddy, that guy said shit.
I just said shit. Fuck. There you go.
Yeah.
Fuck, I just said shit.
And she says, like, I know I'm supposed to be like, hey, don't say that, but like, I guess I do. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she says things in the best context. Like, my mom watches her a lot for me when I'm training or at work or whatever. And she'll text me like, your daughter just said this is fucking bullshit when I told her she couldn't have something.
Oh, that's funny.
And I'm like, oh man, that's not good, but
mm-hmm. What is, I mean, because she's 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of those things that are going to happen where it's funnier than hell to you.
Yeah.
But yet you have to correct them.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of don't want to.
Yeah.
Because it was so funny.
It was.
But you still have to.
Yeah. And it's almost like they understand that too. Like, I can say it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the penis story.
All right. So I have one. No. So I choose to have one. So the penis story. How's that? It was actually the meet I told you about where my mom told me not to be a pussy. And throughout the day, there was errors with the audio system. So it kept getting quiet on and off. I'm outside the building. I walk in and the music's off. This would have been like the 10th time. I just thought it would be funny to yell penis before the audio came back on.
Why that?
You've never heard of the penis game, like in school?
Mm-mm.
So, see? So someone says penis and you say penis louder.
Okay.
And the next person says penis, you know, like.
Oh, I get. So you wanted to start that.
It was like a high school.
Kind of like a wave in a stadium.
Yeah, except you say penis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, penis. You win. So no one says penis after. I'm like, well, fuck you guys. I win. Easy. And then the music doesn't come back on. I'm like, okay. And everyone's kind of looking at me when I just go about my business. And then Joe Corsi, another lifter from Florida, he lives in Tennessee now. He's like a big guy. He's very like quiet and just, he's like, hey, Jordan. I'm like, yeah. You know how you said penis really loud right there? I was like, yeah. Well, that was a moment of silence.
Oh, God.
That was a moment of silence for a lifter's girlfriend or some shit. I'm sorry, dude. That just died. I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, well, who? And like, I don't know. I think it's his first meet. He doesn't really know anyone here. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Oh, God. And
the meet director comes up to me, Rich Fika, the USPA chair. He's like, that was you, wasn't it? And I was like, yeah, my finest moment. And he's like, you know, I thought that was you. If there were any motherfucker besides you, I'd have had to throw you out. But I acted like I didn't hear it. Sorry, dude. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's not it, because the second part of the story is you donated was it prize money?
Oh yeah.
To the family.
Mm-hmm. Not because I said penis. I mean, I guess I could say I was, but yeah, I did do that. It was only like $500 or something, but
this one I didn't tell you about earlier. So group chats that revolve around on all fours.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you're having group chats. Trevor's on this. And then the topic is on all fours.
On all fours. Yeah.
Or the other ones is it must be trend.
Yeah, really. I mean, I don't really think there's a story to that. I just think that we just have these like funny phrases or things that have been said where our group chat is just named that. So it's like an everyday group chat with like a few Florida lifters.
Yeah.
But I think the name of it just always got changed to like what was funny that week. So unless I'm missing something, I don't.
Does it go around? I used to, when like stupid shit would happen and I'd hear about it, and it could be, business related, or it could be, just sport related or training related. I had a group of people that I'd email. Mm-hmm. And then the theme of every one of these emails was only in powerlifting.
Yeah.
And then whatever the story is so fucked up that this can only happen in powerlifting. Mm-hmm. So I'd send it out to other entrepreneurs that aren't even know this. And the reactions were priceless because they're like, no, there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's not so. I really think that we would just name the group chats, which we just bullshit about everything. It would just be renamed to fun, like that penis story. Like that would probably be the name of the group chat, like
I
capital
get it.
penis exclamation.
Okay.
Unless I'm missing like the on all four thing, because it's been a while since that's been like a very active group chat. But yeah, it was just named by different people. So
Yeah, well, I have a feeling Trevor will start it here after he hears this, and there'll be another one.
Mm-hmm.
The fisting story.
I knew that was coming.
Yep.
So we used to go to fuck, what was that called? Holy shit. Very disrespectful. There is a gym we went to. They call it the headquarters. It was in the Miami area. It was outside of Miami. Damn, I can't believe I don't remember the gym right now. It'll hit me later. But we used to go there we used to all drive from around the state. We all live different areas, and we'd meet up there. I think the closest drive for someone was like maybe 2 hours. I was about 3 hours. And we used to go there and train. Afterwards, we went to Applebee's because everyone fucking loves Applebee's. And I guess I've been known for like being pretty inappropriate at restaurants, just saying like stupid shit. Like, for example, like it's just almost like a reflex. If I'm like with a group or something and someone's like, what are you getting to drink? For some reason, I'll just say, come. I don't know. I don't know why. That's just who I am as a person. Not like I actually want to drink that. I don't think. And the subject, I just said something about fisting to this waiter. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, where you put a fist in your girlfriend and she's going to love it. And then I'm not the only one that like expanded on that. I get blamed for it. I just started it.
Mm-hmm.
It became a topic of discussion. We go back the next week or 2 weeks later. The waiter comes over to me. He's like, dude, I did it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, he's like, I fisted her. And I was like, oh shit. Did you really? Because I've never done that. Never done the fisting or been fisted. But he was always her fucking server. So like, I feel like that guy loved us coming in there on Saturdays. Yeah. Yeah. That was it. Yeah. So if that were true, I changed the relationship. Yes. Yeah. Probably for the worse. For at least one of them. Oh my, I didn't see that one coming. Neither did she. I thought it was just a conversation that was, yeah. No, like I can't believe let's put that in one of your shorts. Then the other one was being a hibachi chef. Oh, being a hibachi chef. Oh, so the place was packed. Yeah, I thought he was talking, when he brought this up to me, I thought he was talking about a recent time. We went to a new place. It was whatever. It was, so we were at the Orlando Europa back when that was like a thing. They had a powerlifting meet there. And we went to Hibachi and they were short. And obviously I'm the Chinese guy, I guess, at least halfway there, my technicality. And I took one of the chef's hats that was there and I put it on and I just started doing the shit. Do you know how to do the shit? No, or were you just, not. Okay. Well, no. You had this restaurant thing, right? So you started how many years did you work in a restaurant growing up? Yeah, but that was like a Greek restaurant, like a mom and pop diner. Yeah. I wasn't fucking serving cats and dogs or anything. Yeah. Yeah. Well, did your parents? Cats and dogs, no, just General's Chicken. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they had like one of those standard like takeout restaurants you can eat in. It was actually like the only Chinese restaurant in my small town for probably 8 years or so. And then the town started to blow up and there's more of them. And then they sold it and just went on. And how old were you then? I moved to Florida because of that. So I was about 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. And I believe they sold it when I was like in the 5th grade. So 10 or 11. So you grew up around this entrepreneurship, small business thing. I did, but it really wasn't taught to me. So my parents always wanted to go back to school and my dad wanted to get in the medical field. My mom wanted to be a teacher. That happened on both ends. But I feel like I've always been the same type of person as my dad in terms of like the work ethic and the business stuff or the money stuff. So yeah, like I think he always had an obsessive personality as well. And I think that's where I got it from. So like for me, it's been towards like powerlifting, increasing my income, thinking outside the box to do different things. And do you think some of the customer service stuff may have stemmed from that, from just being around that? No, I was too young. I was way too young because I really wasn't there much. I would go there sometimes for lunch to see my mom and grandparents or whoever was there. But like dinner time, that busy part, I was always home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like the customer service thing, I think that just stemmed from my own time as a server / busser at that restaurant for 10 years. And I've always been like a quiet guy. Like I'm very, I guess the word's introverted around people I don't know. Like I'm surprised I'm able to talk so much this, right?
Well, we're in a gym.
Yeah, that's true. And
that's a reason for that.
Yeah. And it took me a long time to just get comfortable around people. And once I went to the other gym, same thing. It was like a new environment. So I'm like, fuck, how am I supposed to start training people? I'm like afraid to talk to them. Then I got comfortable there because I guess it is a gym, but not your gym as a fitness center. And then as for my own gym, the customer service, it's really not needed because the population that comes into my gym aren't your off the street people looking for like machines to be sold on things. They just want to belong to like a smaller type niche gym.
But that's still a service.
Yeah, it's a service, but I don't have to be like a super outgoing guy. I just have to make them happy.
Yeah.
And
well,
like I know what you're laughing at, but like it's not very hard to make these people happy. Like, just hopefully the shit's not broken. If something's broken, fix it. Keep it somewhat clean. Make sure the AC works, and they're happy people. So, but
a lot of gyms can't do that.
No, it's actually funny. I feel like my gym can be dirty as shit sometimes because I have the stall mats, the dirt tracks, and I've had a guy. His name's Adam. He travels for work, and he's been to a lot of these type of like strength-based gyms. And he's like, dude, you have the cleanest gym out of all. I'm like, are you fucking sure? Because like I'm looking around now and I can just swipe dust off the floor with my hand. He's like, no, they're all like disgusting. So that made me feel good.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Does your daughter, is she in the gym with you?
Sometimes. In the beginning, a little more because her mom lives close. So we'd like kind of like exchange her at the gym. But now her school schedule's a little different, starts a little earlier. So she's not in it, but she wants to go all the time. Like when she's in the school, she's like, can we please go to the gym for 5 minutes? I want to go to the gym, I want to work out, I want to see grandma, whatever the case is. But now when I take her at night, she'll want to actually work out. So like the other night she picked up a PVC pipe, put it on blocks, and her version of deadlift was like lifting up over her head. She counts to 10 because now she can count and shit. So yeah, I'm hoping that being around that pays off for her, like in her own future. Like I don't really care if she's a powerlifter.
Yeah.
I just want her to be involved with things that are like on her, not always just a team thing, like just to build that like self-discipline and confidence in herself. So, and I think that's important growing up for kids.
What other things with her are you trying to instill in her?
So she's still a little young, so it's hard to completely go down that way. But my goals as a parent, I mean, is just set a good example, have her emulate what she sees. Like, doesn't have to do what I do, but at least like some of the traits. I mean, I'm not saying I have all good traits, but like the positive ones would be nice. I would love her to be involved in things that like she has to work for. So whether if it's a sport like gymnastics, martial arts, lift, anything where it's just on them and they can fail over and over again and recognize that and have to get better. I feel like that's going to pay off in the long run rather than just play only the team sports like soccer, softball, you know, volleyball, whatever the case is.
Yeah. Well, being aware that you're setting the example is important.
Yeah. And it's hard to say that because I don't like saying like I should be the example because like she's got a great mom, great grandparents, great everyone she's around.
Yeah,
awesome.
Of course.
But if she can find the positives from every one of us, I think she's going to be good to go. She's in school now, like preschool, and I do see how she's starting to want to do homework, which is cool to me, even though she doesn't actually have homework, but like she'll want to like read stuff. So I feel like the positive reinforcements have to be there. I'm not perfect at it by any means. I feel like anything, we can all be better parents. So for myself, I feel like I have to improve whatever parenting skills I'm lacking or be better at it for her to form a relationship with me over time that she wants to emulate to. Because I can't just be like, do this, do that. Like I have to be more involved. So that's a goal of mine as well. Like once she does start getting involved in things, like I want to make it where I never miss something. You know what I mean? Like, of course it's going to happen here and there. Like you can't be at everything like you could, but chances are it's not. But I want to be the guy or the parent that is there for everything. And she knows that she can like rely on me. Because her mother is too. So it's like, we're divorced, separated, but it was at a young enough age where it's not going to I feel like negatively impact her as if it were older. And as long as her and I work together and set the examples like we speak of and just reinforce things and create that positive environment, I just want her to grow up and be like happy. I don't want her to feel like she has to do anything because of like whatever expectations we have. Like, of course, like at the younger age, but when she's like 16, 17, 18, she doesn't want to fucking go to college, but she wants to do this, like something that's unconventional. Like, I'm going to support her. I mean, that's just how I am. I mean, that's a whole different story. I feel like in 20 years, the whole college thing might be somewhat obsolete except for certain career paths. Just like we spoke about powerlifting, things evolve. Life is going to evolve. Technology is going to evolve. Like, I know your 40 plus crowd probably hates the cell phones for some kids. It's definitely a distraction, but chances are a lot of these kids are going to make their living off that phone. And I know like right now, yeah, they're just doing TikTok and shit, but that's going to grow into something else most likely.
Oh, it will.
It already has.
Yes.
Like, you have fucking 20-year-olds that like have educated themselves about investing in not even just stocks, just like the S&P 500. So they have Robinhood accounts and they check that shit every day. They go work at their part-time dishwashing job or Uber or whatever, and that's a part of their life at 20. And I'm sure you know the importance of that. Like, if I knew now or knew then what I know now, I'd be a fucking millionaire from just putting a little bit of money in every month instead of a car payment. That's where I think it's going to go. And I just hope that she's the type of kid that ends up adapting with those times, like intelligence.
Yeah. What is the best way for people to get a hold of you? I use Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, Wongstrong, WONG, STWONG. It's that little catchy Wongstrong with the W. Can't take credit for that. Chad Walker was just saying that joking around one day and I made it my name and it just stuck. Or my gym page, Showcase Strength and Fitness.
Well, it's probably better than Jordan Wong because that's some other dude that did a meet in 2008.
Yeah,
that you got credit for.
Exactly. Was it even good? Yeah. So just the basic Instagram. I'm working on getting a new gym website up and probably my own like personal training website, just so things are streamlined. But I still think social media is probably the way to go, even when that's up. And other than that, I think that's the only way you can get to me.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. I really like this discussion. I was nervous about this because I've seen like all of them and I didn't know what we talk about. Like, I had an idea of some of the things we talk about, but I didn't know how to like convey them. And like, just toot your horn, you're very good at this. Like, you're very good
Thank
at
you.
Like, because I'm not someone that can hold I don't even know how long we've been here, a conversation with, even with like my best friend. It's like, give me 5 minutes, get me the fuck out of here. So like, well, like with you, I feel like we just started, and maybe it's because we like, you know how I'm wired, because we're all kind of wired the same way. And just seeing the quality of your podcast or table talk, whatever you actually call it, from like the Dan Green, Andrew Herbert days to what it is now, it's so different. And it's probably one of the only ones worth listening to besides like the Massonomics guys, which like they're a totally different show.
It's different. It's
I loved your show.
Yeah.
Like,
that was great.
Like, I could sit here and talk about all the shows I love that you did because you're all so good, man. But yeah, I'm glad you invited me out here. Like, I don't know why you invited me out here, but yeah, I've always wanted to come out here to the gym and check it out. Like, this is your second one, right? Like, you've had a different location.
This is the third or fourth iteration.
Shit. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, like, you created a platform for people to like learn from, and it kind of just doubles down on what you've always done with your website with the training logs and the articles. Like, I never had, like, when I was in high school, I didn't have my own like laptop computer. So I'd always be on my grandma's computer when she wasn't on it. And I'd always have EliteFTS up, like seeing if so-and-so updated their training log. And it was always like the Florida people mostly, like Brian Schwab, because I always want to go to Orlando Barbell. Still haven't been there for some reason. Brian, Adam,
Joe,
all those guys. Yeah.
Joe's still going. Jordan.
Oh yeah. So he was in a different area. He was at Orlando Barbell.
For a while.
Yeah. And he's actually the one that I know best out of all those people, because he's at all these fucking meets. He judges them. He helps out. He listens to them still. So he's a great guy. Like, I don't know him super well personally, but he's always been awesome to me.
Yeah. Every time I think, I've known Joe forever, but anytime I think of him, it always goes back to like maybe 5 years ago, somebody made a post that he was 75 years old or some shit. Oh my God, that was it was so funny because they didn't know. And like, this is one strong motherfucker for being 75 years old. It just cracked me up.
Like, I really like him because he's gone through that up and down wave that we talked about earlier, and he's still at it. And he's still fucking strong. It's very inspirational. Like, I hope that can be me one day. Like, there's a lot of people that I hope I can somewhat emulate off of, like the people you have now, like the Trevors of the world. He's 43 or 44, all these injuries, and he's still going. Like, he's going to come back better from what he's going from now. I mean, so all these people that you've been able to display, and not just myself, like other people look up to it. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming out. This has been great. Guys, thanks for listening, and we're done. Today's episode is brought to you by LMNT, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With LMNT, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drank 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, LMNT is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serving packages free with any LMNT order. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend, and LMNT will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinklmnt.com/Table Talk. One of the best ways that you can support the podcast and your training is to join the crew. When you join the crew, you get an extra crew cast podcast every single month. You also get access to our Discord, which has a training Q&A with Team Elite FTS members. You get form checks. You can upload any of your training footage and have your lifts diagnosed, sometimes within minutes, by multiple people. Access to close to 30 different ebooks, training logs, and first sign up access to our weekend training retreats, train your ass off, and other events that we do. Biggest takeaways from that, though, what people enjoy the most and get the most out of is the training Q&A and the form checks, as well as the extra podcast. Hey guys, I'm back in the gym with another limited edition apparel drop. This is the new Live, Learn, Pass On shirt. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our cambered grip American cable attachment. This attachment has 4 grips and it's cambered. So when you flip it, it actually becomes 8 grips. And if you turn it upside down, there's actually 16. This is one of our most used cable attachments out in the gym. Even got that full range of motion. We got a second limited edition drop this month as well. Head over to EliteFTS.com, pick up the shirt, pick up the cable attachments, and we'll see you next time.
Matt with EliteFTS here at the Armory in Columbus, Ohio. This is a new build, beautiful facility. Should be opening up around November 1st, 2023. Looking at the posterior chain developer, signature version. It's going to have the logo panels on there. Reverse hypers, you can do glute ham raiser, back raise, any kind of posterior chain movement you want to do on this piece. This is really good. The best thing about this, so you just step down on the release, adjust it. So it makes it really easy to adjust these, no pop pins or anything of those sorts. So this is the signature posterior chain developer by EliteFTS.com.